meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll introduce the board at this time. My name is TJ Hurry. I'm the chair of the board. Ken Foreman is the vice chair. Bob Dugan is the board's clerk. Ed Van Kuren is a full voting member. Ed Zielinski is a full, Scott Zielinski is a full voting member as well. Mary Berry is an associate member, and James Morse is an associate member as well. Also with us tonight is Noreen Stockman, who is the zoning administrator, Ashley DeMello, who is the recording secretary, and also with us tonight is Justin Shanahan from the Falmouth IT department, and our friends at FCTV are helping us live stream everything as well tonight. So in accordance with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of this public meeting of the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals is physically closed in order to avoid group congregation. There are alternative measures in place, and they are provided by being televised via Falmouth Community Television, and real-time public comment can be addressed to the Zoning Board of Appeals utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. This application will allow users to view the meeting and ultimately be elevated and provide comment to the board when the appropriate time comes during the night. For the Zoom login instructions, you can go to www.falmouthma.gov/ZBA. And more on public comment in a minute, but the Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the zoning bylaws for the town, and we consider requests on special permits, variances, and appeals as provided in the bylaws, which have been approved by town meeting and the Attorney General's office for the Commonwealth. All decisions the board makes are made through the public hearing process. The board's goal is to hear testimony from the applicant and from the public, and to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement of the hearing and then present any pertinent information from the file, such as referrals from town departments and summarizing correspondences to the board. The applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, and time may be extended by vote of the board. The board will then question the applicant, and the public will be invited to comment as well. Public comment should be directed only at the project itself, and we ask you to please refrain from making any personal or derogatory statements. Public comment can include an opinion in favor or in opposition, or it might just simply be a question about the nature of the project. The chair will limit discussion in the interest of time in the event that comments become repetitive. All members of the public wishing to speak will be recognized by the chair. And again, we're entertaining public comment utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Again, the login instructions are at www.falmouthma.gov/ZBA. So at the appropriate time during each hearing tonight, the chair will open it up to to public comment. Town meeting was on my mind being last week. We will ask you to please click the raised hand icon, at which point I will elevate someone. We ask you to please state your name and address for the record, along with any question, comment, or concern about the project that you may have. After public comment, the board will then either close or continue the hearing. When the board is satisfied that enough information has been presented by testimony and in the file to make a decision, by motion and vote of the board, the hearing will be closed. And the alternative, the board may continue the hearing to a future date and time. After the hearing is closed, no more testimony may be taken. And as for board discussion and decision, the board may then further discuss the project among ourselves and make a motion to deny or approve would be made and voted upon. The motion will include a summary of key findings and conditions. An affirmative vote of 4 members, which is a supermajority, is required for approvals of motions on special permits, variances, and appeals. A split vote, such as a 3-2 vote, would be a failure to carry and would result in denial of the project. Under Massachusetts general law, if a special permit is denied, the applicant cannot return to the board for 2 years unless the project is substantially different. Okay, so turning to the agenda for the night, we do have public comment. We have 4 new public hearings, and we have a few items on our open meeting list. So first up for the night is public comment. This public comment period is meant for anything not on the agenda. And again, if you wish to comment on a project, just stay in place, wait until the appropriate time in the night. So if anyone out there has public comment for something that is not on the agenda, go ahead and click the raised hand icon using the Zoom app, and we will elevate you in a moment. All right, not seeing anyone for public comment, so we can move ahead with our public hearings that are scheduled for 6:30. Is there any sort of motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so I make a motion to take some items out of order under the public hearing section. Noonan will be number 4. So we'll start with Wagner as number 1, which is 87 Mariners Lane. Number 2 will be Dieters, Castello, 65 Philadelphia Street. 3 will be Laster Trustees, 322 Woodsall Road. And then 4th will be Noonan, 183 Surf Drive.
So moved.
Very good. All right, thank you, Bob, for that motion. Motion was made by Bob and seconded by Scott. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
James?
James Morse, aye.
Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
And TJ Hurry, aye. So the motion passes unanimously, and we will be taking these public hearings out of order as Bob suggested. All right, so up first, we have application 17-21, Wagner, 87 Mariners Lane in Falmouth.
So application 17-21, Christopher R. Wagner, 100 Pier 4 Boulevard, apartment 1919, Boston, Mass. Has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to construct additions to the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling, increasing lot coverage by structures on subject property known as 87 Mariners Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For referrals, from engineering, the application was reviewed for impacts to public rights of way and public utilities. Mariners Lane and Clearview Ave are public rights of way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right of way. Any changes of the right of way would require filing a permit with the engineering division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town departments. 3, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public right of way. 4, we recommend the board add a condition that requires the addition of dry wells or other stormwater infiltration measures. 5, we recommend the following condition be included in any approval. Upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for its residence per section 99.1, affixing of legible numbers, time limit for compliance. 6, no driveway permit or street opening permit is required for the project as proposed, where the engineering division could require erosion and sediment controls in a permit application. This is a small lot close to abutting residences and the site slopes down to the street. Therefore, we request that any approval of the plan be revised and submitted for review. We request the following be included in a revised plan. Silt sack installed in the catch basin in the front of the property. Erosion controls across the front of the work construction entrance. 7, we recommend the following condition also be included in any approval. Construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standards of conditions, which can be found on the Engineer Division's page of the town's website. References to the Department of Public Works Engineering Division shall be replaced with the Zoning Board of Appeals, who will be the permitting authority for this project. From Concom, I did mention the project is located within the FEMA flood zone A12 and required the filing of an RDA. And on an update to that, they did get an approved RDA from Concom. The Water Department. These are the comments referenced back on February 26th. The water main and service must be shown on all the plans. The existing home is fed with a 3/4 inch service from a 2-inch line in Mariners Lane. This should include upgrading the 3/4 service to a 1-inch service as per current standards. Fire Department has no issues with the project as drawn. And Health Department has no issues with this proposed project. No comment from planning. And I don't see anything from assessors.
All right, thank you, Bob. And the voting members on this application will be the regular voting members. And Dana Wessel, I believe, is representing the applicant. And Dana, while Bob was reading everything into the record, we elevated
Actually, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
ahead,
Wessel is on the Philadelphia project. This would be Attorney Clower.
Oh, all right. I wrote that down wrong. Sorry, Dana. If we could drop Dana and if we could elevate Attorney Clower, please. Attorney Clower, my apologies.
That's quite all right. I'd apologize to Dana more than anyone. You don't want to confuse me for him, but I don't think he'd appreciate it. But I have no issues with it. I just want to scan the attendee list real quick to see who we have. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicant, Chris Wagner, the owner of 87 Mariners Lane. I do expect that I'll be joined tonight by Mike Borselli and Denise Benoli, but I did not see them in the attendees list just yet. We are seeking to alter a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling on the property located at 87 Mariners Lane. That is located at the southern end of Shore Street in a dense residential neighborhood. It's on a lot of 8,320 square feet. It is in an AE12 flood zone, and it is in the residential C zoning district. Presently, there's a 3-bedroom single-family dwelling with a footprint of just over 1,800 square feet. It's non-conforming to front yard setback being 21.1 feet, where 25 is required. Southerly side yard line 9.3 feet, where 10 is required, and to lot coverage by structures being 21.7%, where 20 is allowed by right and up to 25 by special permit. The applicant, Mr. Wagner, purchased this property in 2020 and is proposing some alterations which will improve the dwelling for his use. Specifically, he's proposed the creation of a small foyer at the front of the house in addition to the northern side, which would allow for the creation of a new bathroom, basically creating a first floor master suite, and also an expansion of the garage, which will increase the size and utility of that garage space. Further, there's a small addition to the rear of the structure, which will allow for a small half bath and a laundry room off of that mudroom entrance. The results of this are a slight improvement to the front yard setback. That'll go from 21.1 feet to 21.8. There's no effect on the existing side yard setback. And the lot coverage by structure will increase to 24.5%, but with the issuance of a special permit pursuant to 240-69E, that nonconformity is eliminated. There's no change to the ridge height, which will remain at 21 feet, and the number of bedrooms will remain at 3. This property is located within an AE12 flood zone, and we did submit an appraisal and a FEMA cost breakdown worksheet. As reflected on that worksheet, the cost is less than 50% of the appraised value of the structure and is therefore allowable under the FEMA guidelines. 243C states that pre-existing non-conforming structures may be changed by special permit, provided that they're not substantially more detrimental than what exists. In order to determine that, the board is asked to consider 242.16 and whether the alteration creates a new dimensional nonconformity, impairs views and vistas, and reasonably conforms to the average dimensions in the neighborhood. In this case, there's no new nonconformity created. The front yard setback is slightly improved from 21.1 to 21.8. The lot coverage by structure, though increased, is eliminated as a nonconformity. There's no effect on the side yard setback. And lot coverage by structure requires a special permit being over 20% under 240-69E. In that instance, you're asked to consider the size and height of the structure relative to the size and height of structures in the neighborhood, the effects of shadow on adjacent properties, the impacts on views and vistas from public ways, and the effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. In this situation as well, we have no impact to the views and vistas, no effect of shadow on shadow as the ridge will remain the same, no effect on coastal embayments as the bedroom count remains the same. And as to the size of the structure, we did submit a lot comparison worksheet showing the 37 properties within a 300-foot radius. And of those, 17 have larger footprints and 21 have larger gross floor areas, which is all to say that as proposed, this proposal is certainly in line with the nearby homes. These proposed alterations don't create any new nonconformities. They improve an existing nonconformity, eliminate a nonconformity, and they're in character with the neighborhood. They meet the requirements of 243C, 240-69E, and 242-16. I believe that this board can issue a special permit on this project, and I'd be happy to address any questions that you might have at this time.
All right, thank you, Attorney Clower. We'll turn it to board questions then. Ed, anything?
No, I don't have any problems. It looks like it's a place a lot more useful for the owner and it'll hardly be noticed whatever these changes are.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Scott?
Concur with Ed's assessment. I have no issues with it either.
Very good. Mary?
I have no issues, no question.
Okay. James?
I agree with everyone else, and I have no questions.
All right. Bob?
No questions.
Ken?
So just for the record, your bedroom count remains the same, and you're not adding an additional story or anything like that.
Nope. There is an expansion of the footprint, but it's there's no new bedrooms and there's no expansion to the second floor.
Okay, I've been looking through the file for the lot comparison worksheet, and I'm not finding it. That's the
I thought I had submitted it. I had it in my cover letter, and if I didn't, that was an oversight. I'd be happy to submit it. I do have it prepared.
I don't know if anyone else.
Any way you can share your screen, Attorney Clower? Is that possible?
I can.
It was in Attorney Cow's cover letter, but we did not receive the comparison, so sharing the screen is probably the best thing to do.
Yeah, that's my my oversight then, and I apologize. I'd be happy to share that, and bear with me for 1 second. So I did, as I said, we looked at the nearby properties within a 300-foot radius, which is basically the standard that we've adopted. So there's 37 properties, and of those, 17 have a larger footprint, and 21 have a larger gross floor area.
And in terms of lot coverage, percent lot coverage, we got.
There's a number of properties that are also above 20%, some above 25.
Mhm. Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right. And no questions from me, so we'll turn it to public comment. If there's any question, comment, or concern that anyone has out there regarding this project, go ahead and click the raised hand icon, and we will elevate you in a moment. All right, not seeing anyone. Back to the board. Any follow-up
Motion to
questions?
close?
Second,
All right, motion to close made by Scott and seconded by Ed. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Ken? Oh, you're muted, Ken.
Ken Forman, aye.
All right, thank you, Ken. And TJ Hurry, aye. So the motion passes unanimously. The hearing is closed. How would the board like to proceed?
A motion to approve with conditions.
Second it.
All right, motion approved with conditions made by Bob and seconded by Scott. Bob, you want to start us off with findings?
Yeah, so 240-3C, 240-69E, 240-216, not substantially more detrimental. For nonconformities, you have a coverage by structures of 21.7%, which will be going up to 24.5%, where 25 is allowed by special permit. You have a front yard setback 21.8, where 25 is required, and a side yard setback of 9.3, where 10 is required. They did get a RDA approved by Concom. They did make changes to the revisions to the proposed plan.
No increase in height.
No increase in height. It's a first floor addition. Property is in the AE12 flood zone. They submitted a FEMA worksheet appraisal. And at the meeting, they submitted a lot comparison worksheet. Regarding the FEMA workshop, they're within the 50% allowance.
No comments either way from the butters.
No comments in the file.
Okay.
Enhances the utilization of the property for the applicant.
Yep, and there's no change in bedroom count. They will be relocating an outside shower that exists at a rinse station.
All right. Anything else for findings?
I think that's it.
All right. Moving on to conditions.
Do per the revised plans. Concom comments the section 99.1, affixing of legible numbers required and time limit for compliance.
Wells, Bob.
The soil. I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You said there was dry wells stated in the
Yeah, so they
engineering
will,
statement.
yep, they'll need the addition of the dry wells to handle the stormwater infiltration. We just want to make sure that on the revised plan, it shows the silt sack installed at the catch basin in the front of the property, and also the erosion controls across the front of the work construction entrance. Also subject to the soil and erosion sediment control standard conditions. Department of Public Works Engineering Division shall be replaced with the Zoning Board of Appeals. Should also put in the comments from the Water Department regarding service. They're suggesting an upgrade from the 3/4 to a 1 inch. I suppose we should do the construction hours like we normally do.
And did we make findings on those dry wells too? I know you just mentioned them as a condition, Bob.
No.
If we're going to include that as a
Revised
finding.
plan showing the dry wells. I just want to.
Yeah, so put that in there.
Sure. All right. Any other conditions?
No, I think that's it, unless Noreen can think of anything.
All right. Noreen, anything?
I think I'm good.
Very good. All right, so that was a motion to approve with conditions made by Bob and seconded by Scott. We'll do a roll call vote again. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. And Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
And TJ Hurry, aye. So it passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate your time this evening and look forward to seeing you shortly.
Thank you, Attorney Clower. All right, so up next we have application 18-21 Dieters Castello, 65 Philadelphia Street in T-Ticket. And is this the application that Dana is supposed to be on? Or did I
Yes, it is.
Or did I completely throw myself off there?
No,
All right,
no, that's
so-
correct, Mr. Chairman, but I do have one question too, and I don't know if they can check the list. Mr. Dieters actually came to the town hall by accident. He was driving back so he could take part in the meeting if needed. So I don't know if that's something that Dana can address. If he's needed or if he's available.
Why don't we elevate Dana and check in on that? And if need be, we could, I suppose we could take something out of order again, but we'll check in on that. All right, Dana, you've been elevated. All you need to do is turn on your microphone and your video.
Hello.
Hi.
So that was not Mr. Dieters, that was me.
Oh,
Oh,
That was me. So,
well, that's better than you're here. So we're all set on that.
all right. So no intention of Mr. Dieter's contribution tonight?
No.
All
Nope,
right.
just
So,
me.
all right. So we'll have Bob read everything into the record and we'll get underway. How's that?
Great. So we've got application 18-21, Robert L. Dieters and Jean M. Castello, 39 Keys House Road, Shrewsbury, Mass. Have applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to raise and rebuild the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling on subject property known as 65 Philadelphia Street, T-Ticket, Mass. From engineering. The application was reviewed for impacts to public rights of way and public utilities. Philadelphia Street is a public right of way in this area. No alterations are proposed to the right of way. Any changes within the right of way would require filing a permit with the engineering division. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public rights of way. 4, we recommend that the board add a condition that requires the addition of dry wells or stormwater infiltration measures for the home. We recommend the following condition be included. Section 99(1). Upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence. Affixing of legible numbers required. Time limit for compliance. 6, where this property butts a town right of way, but no street opening or driveway permit would be required from the engineering division. We request that erosion and sediment controls are included for this project to protect the town's right of way. Where the sides and rear of the lot are enclosed by stockade fence, only the front would require erosion and sediment controls. We recommend that the plans be revised to include proposed erosion and sediment controls across the front of the lot and include a construction entrance. We recommend the following condition be included in any approval. Construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions. References to the Department of Public Works Engineering Division shall be replaced with the Zoning Board of Appeals, who is the permitting authority for this project. The existing post and rail fence across the front of the property and portions of the existing stockade fence on the property fall within the town right of way. These structures typically require a license from the select board to occupy the town right of way. We recommend that any approval include a condition to license these structures or remove them. There was an updated comments from engineering as of March 30th. It does say the plot plan raise and rebuild for Jean Dieters, 65 Philadelphia Street, one sheet by Warwick and Associates, Inc., dated 12/16/2020 and last revived 3/22/2021. The plans satisfactorily address our original concerns regarding adding erosion controls across the front of the project to protect the public right of way. We still recommend the condition that the project is required to follow the town soil erosion and sediment control standards as previously commented. The plans also indicate that the post and rail fence will be removed from the public right of way. We recommend the board include a condition that the fence be removed as stated on the plan. We recommend that the site be inspected to confirm removal prior to issuance of occupancy permit. Conservation staff have no comments on the above reference as it appears outside of conservation jurisdiction. Planning has no comment. Assessors have no comment. Water Department. The water main and service are shown on the plans as required. The existing home is fed from a 2-inch main from a service with a meter pit. The proposal should include the renewal of the service from the curb box to the home, with the new meter being installed inside the home to provide adequate pressure and flow for the increased demand. From Amy Lowell with wastewater regarding 65 Philadelphia Street. The property is in the Little Pond Sewer Service area and has an existing gravity sewer connection. Looks like they're proposing to increase from 2 bedrooms to 4. 4-bedroom is allowed under the flow neutral bylaw without a variance, so no flow neutral bylaw hearing is required. It is a small lot. I do not know if the lot could have accommodated a 4-bedroom without the sewer connection, and I don't know if the lot could have accommodated a 4-bedroom septic system. Before the house is demolished and rebuilt, the contractor should contact the wastewater division for sewer connection modification permit. Fire department has no issues with the project as drawn. There is a letter submitted from a Debbie Scott at 61 Philadelphia Street regarding this application. She does have some concerns. One, increasing the nonconformity by enlarging the cottage home will encroach on the bordering home's spatial sense. 2, the number of proposed bedrooms assures an increase in cars and an increased parking space will encroach on neighboring cottages and quality of life. 3, the second floor roof deck in close proximity of the other properties will result in loss of privacy and quality of enjoyment of private property. And 4, stormwater runoff with the loss of permeable land in the small lot causing damage to abutters. Respectfully submitted, Debbie Scott, owner, 61 Philadelphia Street. And that's all we have.
All right, thank you, Bob. Mr. Wessel?
Yes, how you doing, everybody? My name's Dana Wessel. I'm representing both North Star Construction and doctors Robert and Jean Dieters in Castello. The lot's a pretty small lot. It's a 5,310 square foot lot, pretty consistent, larger than its average size for Philadelphia Street. Philadelphia Street has 10 houses constructed on it. The lot is not in a floodplain. It is rectangular, flat. There are not any large trees on the lot. It's pretty cleared out. The lot is in a high wind debris region. And the existing house is 861 square feet, and it is a single-story ranch. The existing house has 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and a full unfinished basement. And the existing house is 16 feet tall. The proposed house is 26 feet tall, has 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a covered front porch, and a second floor covered balcony. The first floor of the proposed house is actually smaller than the existing house, in both the lot coverage for structures and total structures, parking and paving is reduced as proposed here. 953 square feet on the first floor. Although the lot is small, so isn't the house. That's not very large. The second floor, 714 feet. That's really where we're picking up our gross increase in the gross living area. There is a proposed finished room in the basement. Just one rectangular room finished, labeled as a game room, family room, what have you. We're applying under section 240C3 under pre-existing non-conforming structures. 240C3 reads that any such change, extension, alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use of structure. Then moving down to the standards of 240, 216. The change or alteration of structure use may be allowed as maintaining or lessening any non-conformity without having to meet existing dimensional requirements. I'll leave that right there. And just say that the existing lot coverage is 20%. The proposed is slightly less, although the total lot coverage with parking paving is reduced by about 5.5%, which I guess on this lot would be significant, about 289 square feet less than what exists now. All three, both sides and rear setbacks are conforming. What brings this project to the board is the front setback. The original front setback as it exists now is 11 feet, and we propose to increase that setback to 17.5 feet. That's a 6.5 foot improvement from where the house is right now. And again, all the other setbacks are all conforming. The height of the structure is 9 feet less than what would be allowed under the zoning bylaw. We did, as Mr. Dugan stated, we did respond to the engineer's request to add sediment control, add dry wells, and would also respond to the request by wastewater and water as we would under a normal construction procedure by applying and receiving approvals for water and sewer alteration. I think that's about all I have to say about it. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Wessel. We'll turn it over to board questions. And if I didn't already mention it, the voting members on this project are the regular voting members. So let's start off with board questions. Ed, do you have anything?
I think it's an improvement to the neighborhood and to increase the value of the house and increase the value to the town. Go for it.
All right, thank you, Ed. And we got rearranged again. Mary, anything, at least on my screen?
No, I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mary. James?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
Is there, what's the entrance to the basement? Is it interior only or will there be a bulkhead?
Interior only, no bulkhead. That's it.
All right, I noticed on the current property, they have a outside compressor for the AC. Are you going to be putting a compressor on this one?
Yes.
I noticed on the current property, there's also an outdoor shower. Are they getting rid of the outdoor shower?
Yes.
And they are also eliminating the shed?
They are eliminating the shed, yes.
Do you have anything that shows parking wise what you can place for cars where there was a concern regarding parking?
The intention was to leave the existing driveway pretty much the way that it is. The driveway would remain in its existing location.
So how many vehicles does the current driveway accommodate?
If you pull all the way forward, you could get 4 vehicles on it. If my memory serves me correctly, I think the driveway, leads right onto the back lawn. So I think sometimes, I know there's a scooter parked back there that they park in the back of the property, but I've never seen any more than 2 cars there. So
on the plan, it looked like there was am I correct that there's a bump out on that side and then there's a patio planned?
Yes.
So when you just mentioned the cars are going to accommodate, does that consider those spaces or no?
I mean, parking was never something that we really discussed. I only bring
it up because the letter did, and
I
you can do 4 bedrooms. It's a husband and a wife. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any problems. If they haven't brought them to my attention. So parking isn't really something that we've been focused on. That's all I can really say about it. And on the basement, I noticed that the 1 bath in the basement is a full bath. What was the reason for a full bath in the basement?
It's what they asked for.
All right, that's all I have for now.
All right, thank you, Bob. Ken, anything?
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my mute tonight.
Same here.
No, I have no questions. I thought Dana did a very thorough job addressing all the concerns. Thank you.
Very good. Scott?
I know, just to piggyback off of Bob's statement about the parking, I have a pickup truck. I was there today, and I don't see 4 vehicles fitting in there. Would the applicant be opposed to it being conditioned that there be no street parking?
Certainly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Scott. And Bob took my question about the shed. I think that really improves with the lot coverage since that's being eliminated. But we will turn it to public comment. If anyone out there has a question, comment, or concern regarding this project, go ahead and click the raised hand icon and we can get you elevated in a moment. And looking into the chat function, I actually see a public comment. We'll get to that in just a second. But Debbie Scott, if you could please provide your address in the chat. We typically ask everyone to please provide both their name and their address for the record. Thank you, Debbie. So I'll start off with Debbie. And again, if anyone else has a question, comment, or concern, go ahead and click the raised hand icon. Debbie Scott asked, what is the percentage of the property to be utilized? I believe Mr. Wessel stated that by structures, it's being improved from 20% down to 19.8%. And percentage-wise, by structures, paving, and parking, it's going from 32.28% down to 26.8%. So I hope that helps. And actually, Debbie just clicked the raised hand. So if we could get her elevated, please, and we can see if she has anything additional. All right, Justin, if you could please elevate Debbie Scott. All right, welcome, Debbie. You've been elevated. You just need to turn on your microphone and your video.
I'm sorry, I don't have any video with myself tonight. I did have some concerns though with the 4 bedrooms and the parking. The parking that is there currently would not accommodate 4 cars. And if you have the 4 bedrooms, I would think there'd be more than 4 people there. So that is my main focus. Also, with moving the house back that 6 feet, it moves it farther to the individuals behind them and the back deck. I feel like it's going to be towering really over their property. So I'm surprised they're not on tonight, but those were my concerns, and I appreciate you reading them into the minutes.
Thank you, Debbie. And they'll be reflected in the minutes, your comments. But if you could tell us where do you live in relation to this property? 61 Philadelphia Street?
I live right next door in the small house that's right on the border. So I was concerned because those bump outs come closer to my home. And I was concerned about the stormwater runoff and the percentage of property being non-permeable. So I do appreciate that you addressed that concern.
Sure. So just so we understand, if I am standing on Philadelphia Street and I am looking at this property, would you be on the left side or the right side?
I'd be on the right side.
You'd be on the right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Scott from the board? All right. Ms. Scott, thank you for your comments tonight.
Thank you for your time.
All right. I am not seeing anyone else for public comment, so I suppose back to the board. Any other follow-up questions?
No, just I just have some comments regarding the plan, just the stuff that isn't on there right now. So the current plan doesn't show the shower reappearing. It doesn't show where the compressors are going to go. It doesn't show the parking spaces on the lot or the patio as it sets off the lot or what materials they're made out of. So we would want those reflected on a plan. The The fence is going to be removed, so I don't think you have to worry about any license at this point because that's coming out of the right of way.
Sure.
Currently there is a large patio out back now, but it seems to be a non-pervious surface. So that's the only reason I bring up materials for lot coverage regarding whatever the driveway improvements will be, or the patio improvements, or where the shower is going to be, because that's going to bump up some of the changes.
All right. Mr. Wessel, just to kind of circle back on Ms. Scott's concern about the bedroom count, I just want to get on the record that you are proposing 4 beds, right?
Yes.
And then that's allowed maximum under the Little Pond sewer?
Yes.
All right. And just kind of piggybacking off of that, the issue with the basement and the full bath, there's no bedroom proposed down there. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just going to throw this out there for the board. I have a little bit of concern with a full bath proposed in the basement. I know they're only saying 4 beds, but that's a potential 5th private area down there in the basement, and there's no sort of there's no bulkhead, no other means of egress.
But just jumping in on the chairman's comments, I have the same concern about the bath, only because it's also a highly used summer area, and they already have maxed out the bedrooms upstairs, but in all likelihood, people are going to want to be near wherever the full bath is in the basement. So even if it may not be intended for usage as a bedroom, it kind of suggests use just because the bath is down there. And then the only question I have for the administrator is where we do need some things revised on the plans to show on the plans. If we do a decision on this tonight, is that something that has to be done in advance? How will, can it affect lot coverage? I just don't know what the situation is on that. And I know that the setback, again, to the administrator on the plan, there is a bump out on one of the windows in front. And I don't know if we need the measurement of that, since that's the furthest, location out towards the front yard setback, if we just need a measurement on that.
So I would say a couple items. I think that the applicant has stated for the record that while there's an existing outdoor rinse station, that they do not intend to replace that. So unless I'm corrected otherwise, that would not be put on the plan. As far as driveways go in the past, you have not asked people to demonstrate that they can park 4 vehicles on a driveway. I think that the legal requirement for a house is 2. That being said, clearly, if they have company, they will need to provide for the capacity for those cars. So as far as the front out goes, I think the applicant has also stated that they're improving the front setback. So I think what would be rational would be to reflect in the decision the improvement of the front setback, and it could be subject to an updated survey that would show that if that bump out exceeds the front facade of the dwelling, that they could reflect that.
And I don't think it does exceed the front of the dwelling. I just didn't know if we needed the measurement just for the plans or not when you do some of these. Or do you need the like they will be adding another compressor, and it was my error on the shower. I forgot he said he wasn't doing the shower, but even on the compressor, is that something that they can just add to the plan later before the building permit versus?
Yeah, I mean, I think where there's a compressor there now and they're indicating that they're going to replace it while it might not be in the exact same location, I think as long as they're not adding to lot coverage by creating a new, say, patio or platform for that. But it does appear as though they have some wiggle room as far as lot coverage by structures go, so that if there was some minute pad that they put in, that they probably have enough enough room to be able to do that without exceeding the 20%.
Thank you, Noreen. And Debbie Scott wrote in the chat, and I know we're outside of the public comment period, but it's just two quick things. Who polices the no return of the outdoor shower or shed? And there is no street parking currently. So who polices the no return of the outdoor shower or shed? Ms. Scott, if this board decides, well, it's shown on the plans that the shed will be eliminated as part of the board's decisions and conditions. We would cite that. And of course, we'd be referencing the plans submitted that do show that the shed would be eliminated. So prior to occupancy permit, I'm sure that the building commissioner would review the conditions and the plans to confirm that all of the conditions were met. As far as the street parking goes, I suppose that if the board has an issue with that, we can discuss that a little further, but our hands are a little bit tied with proposing up to 4 beds in that area of town. It's connected to the sewer, so everyone by right can increase their homes up to 4 beds. And I do recognize the fact, I'm very well familiar with the area about how it's a congested area with a number of close homes, and a number of people especially are out there during the summer months. So I'm sure we can address that when the time comes. All right. Bob, were you looking, and I'm sorry, my connection froze for a few seconds, but I was following the conversation. Were you looking for a few more things to be added on to the plan before we come to any sort of decision?
No, I mean, I think they can add the compressor and stuff later. I just want to make sure that we have a full plan, just what's being proposed. We know that the shed's being removed. We know that the shower is being removed. There is going to be a patio, according to this, but it shows on one of the other drawings. It just doesn't show on the lot itself. It looks like it's going to be a 10 by 10 patio area off the kitchen. I had the same concern that you did on the bath, and it's however the board wants to handle the bath in the basement. We would need to restrict anyways any sleeping area downstairs, but it might be more prudent to have that as a half bath versus a full bath.
Yeah, and to your point, Bob, I'd be more comfortable with that as a half bath down there. I think a full bath is inviting use, privacy as a bedroom down there.
Mr. Chairman, what was their, through testimony, the applicant's representative said that because that was their wish, that was the reason for it?
Yeah, they want it. Mr. Wessel, you can speak to that again if you want.
Yeah, that was just what they asked for. Why not? Why not?
Yeah, I think it's inviting use of a bedroom down there in the basement, and I think the board just needs to especially be careful, given the fact that properties like this can go up to 4 beds. It looks as if it's allowing a 5th bedroom down there.
So just one more question for Mr. Wessel. So just so I'm just confirming in the plan. So on the first floor, you've got a master suite, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the second floor, I see bedroom 2 and 3.
That's right.
Which one is bedroom 4?
The application was put in as a 4th bedroom in anticipation of the Board of Health or the building department stepping in and asking. There's no intention of them to use that downstairs room as a bedroom. However,
No, that's okay. I'm just asking. So per the plans, you're actually looking for a 3-bedroom.
That's right. I put the 4th bedroom in the event that I end up, when the permit cycles through the departments and hits the Board of Health, that they want to designate it as a bedroom, so that's why I put it there, because I don't want to go back to the board and try to ask for another bedroom if either the Board of Health or the building department classifies that room as a bedroom. But essentially, it's a 3-bedroom house on the table with a contingency plan in case I run into an issue at the Board of Health or the building department.
Right. In that case, it seems to me that the objection to the full bath basically evaporates, because if that room is used as a bedroom, it's just the fourth bedroom.
Right.
So
So I personally, I don't have a problem with them wanting a full bath in the basement.
So if, and maybe Mr. Wessel would know, if that was designated as a fourth bedroom, what modifications would have to be made to the home to actually make that usable as a fourth bedroom?
You would need a secondary means of egress.
Would you also need larger windows?
Yeah, it would depend on what the room was classified for. If it was classified as a bedroom, you would need a secondary means of egress as what it is now, whether it be a family room or a TV room or whatever. If it's not a sleeping room, the requirement becomes different. The requirement then becomes for an emergency escape access, which is why you can finish a basement with a bulkhead, which isn't a legal secondary means of egress, because it doesn't meet the building code's definition of a stairway. So, the different towns classify bedrooms in different ways. So in working in surrounding towns here, some towns classify bedrooms by the privacy aspect. Some towns classify bedrooms as to whether or not they reverse engineer the room and say, does the room meet the building code's definition or have all of the aspects of a room that it needs to have in order to be a bedroom? They sort of reverse engineer it. So that I expect that when this permit goes through the process, so should this application get approved, I expect that it's going to hit the Board of Health. Scott's probably going to call and say, what's going on with this room? And I'm going to say, we don't want to have it as a bedroom, but if anybody's going to force us to call it a bedroom, I don't want to be on another Zoom meeting with the Board of Appeals.
So I have a question for the administrator. So when we've dealt with these properties that are on the town sewer system, Health Department has always deferred to wastewater of just how many bedrooms are allowed, but hasn't delved into what constitutes a bedroom. And I know we've had previous ones with the building department where if they think it constitutes a bedroom but can't support it with the second means of egress or the issues, then they actually like them restricted, that they can't be used as a bedroom. So my biggest concern with it downstairs, and if they had the second means of egress and windows, but there's just been issues in town where there's been safety issues with these downstairs, basements that have been finished off, and unfortunately different things have happened, or fires or something has broken out, and they've had a lot of issues with them. So I understand where the owners may want that as a fourth bedroom, but if it was going to be a fourth bedroom, they'd have to come back here anyways, because they'd have to modify the plan.
I think what I'd propose is that the board basically writes up as a 3-bedroom, which is what the plans indicate. But
the plans show.
Right. What Mr. Wessel is saying is that he's identifying in advance that the Board of Health may identify that room in the basement as a bedroom. So what he's saying to you is we're allowed to have 4. We're not anticipating that the basement will be used as a 4th. And indeed, the building commissioner will not designate it a bedroom if it is not called for that. So what I would suggest is that the board refer to a 3-bedroom dwelling, and that while there's, quote, living space in the basement, it's not for sleeping purposes unless and until the applicant provides a second means of egress and provides that in advance to the zoning board. So in other words, you could prohibit there being sleeping in the basement, but I think that may be the best that you could do with that.
Understood. Thank you, Noreen. And thank you, Mr. Wessel, for clarifying the record. You can certainly understand how we got tripped up and confused.
Yep.
All right. Anything else from the board? Now that the record's clarified regarding the bedrooms, anything else?
We're ready to close. I'd make that motion.
Fantastic. All right. Motion to close made by Ken and seconded by Ed. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Scott?
Ron Zielinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. The hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken. What would be the board's pleasure?
A motion to approve with conditions.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Thank you, Ed. All right, motion approved with conditions made by Bob and seconded by Ed. Moving on to findings.
So let's just put it as a finding. The application came in for a 4-bedroom home, but the plans show a 3-bedroom home. So the board is looking at it as a 3-bedroom home. The 4th bedroom on the application was anticipation of future changes. The current lot coverage by structure is 20%. That'll be reducing to 19.8%. The applicant will be removing the exterior shower and the exterior shed. There will be an exterior AC compressor that will be revised on the final plans. Questions came up regarding parking. Current driveway, we know would accommodate 2 cars. Applicant is aware that there is no on-street parking, so would have to make any accommodations for additional vehicles if they can't fit on the lot. Did I do 243C, 240-216? The height of the new structure will be 26 feet. Current is 16. The current stockade fence at the front yard exists currently on the town road layout, and that will be removed and not replaced from the road layout. The property is,
Setbacks, mention the setbacks.
yeah,
It's the front setback. It's being improved from, is it 11 going to about 18, Bob?
11 to
Yeah.
17.5, I think.
17.5, thank you.
Yep.
Side yards are 22 and 23.6, both conforming. Oh, no, wait, more than it's 22 and 22.
All right,
And then the rear yard also conforms at 10.5.
might as well mention the improvement with structures for lot coverage going from 20 to 19.8, I think. And
Right.
structures paving parking 32.28 down to 26.8.
Plans reflect a family room in the basement. The only access to the basement is from one interior stairway.
Shed to be removed. And I guess, yeah, well, obviously the shower, anything associated with the old house is removed because they're raising it.
All right, anything else for findings? All right, how about conditions?
So we'll have to have the engineering comments, the comments from the water department regarding relocation on that pit meter. Condition that the fence across the front of the property be removed. And they also ask that the site be inspected to confirm its removal prior to any occupancy, prior to any issuance of an occupancy permit. Noreen, I don't know, do we need to list somebody in there? Is that something that you or someone drives by, or does the engineering, who does the site inspection?
So that would be part of the building inspection, and it can certainly be linked to the final CO, and then it just won't be issued until it's verified that all conditions are met, and the removal of the fence would be one of those conditions.
So I would just put in there that when the site is inspected, we get a written confirmation from whoever did the inspection that the fence has been removed from that area. Also condition regarding the basement, no low sleeping facilities. The property is being approved as a 3-bedroom. And then, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you had any concerns regarding the bath. If I'd rather have it a half bath versus a full. I don't know how the rest of the board.
I think they should be, they're allowed to have 4 bedrooms. If they want to have a full bath in the basement, what business is it of ours? We're about zoning. There's no zoning restriction.
Right.
I agree
My
with
concern was if they were going from 4 to potentially
That was
5.
legitimate concern, but they can't do that. They don't have that's not what's, the house doesn't have 5 bedrooms.
Right.
So I think if we condition no sleeping arrangements, no sleeping accommodations in the basement unless there's a second means of egress, we've done our duty.
Well said, Ken.
I agree.
Anyone else? All right. Any other conditions?
Did we,
Yes,
I'm sorry, did we put all materials and equipment to be maintained on the lot during construction?
No, not yet. So add that in, then add the construction hours.
And I think you should add as a condition as well as a finding that the shed's to be removed.
And can we put on that, Noreen, to some kind of confirmation that the sheds be removed? Because a lot of these that are supposed to be removed are remaining.
Yes.
All right. Anything else for conditions?
Yeah, just the again, engineering, the affixing of legible numbers at 99-1. The soil erosion and sediment controls with the zoning board as the department.
Under findings, I think you want to explicitly cite Amy Lowell's letter.
And also conditions, I'm glad that you brought that up, that they need to contact her department in advance regarding modification to the sewer connection. And we should probably put that prior to the obtaining a building permit. Let me just check, does the plan show dry wells?
I don't think so. I think that's
So-
why that was.
No, there is one in the front yard, off to the eastern side near the fireplace, near the sewer connection.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In condition, no, I think we already did it, but no on-street parking.
It's a town law.
Yeah, I know,
After
but
midnight.
we'll give them some backup.
I've never seen any cars on the street in that section of town.
Can I chime in on something? Is that against the rules?
The hearing is closed, but if it's a quick limited purpose, I'll let
It's
you have
very,
it.
very simple. I just wanted to chime in on the condition asking me to get the sewer permit in advance of getting the building permit. And that, the wastewater permits, the modifications, the installations, those are part of an ordinary construction process. And when you submit the plans for those, you submit the locations of the water line, the electrical line, the gas line. And those are one of the last things that I would do in the process of constructing a home and doing a sewer connection. And I've done a lot of them. I've done about 100 of them. I would ask for some relief on that, just for the simple fact that logistically, I would rather get the electrical line, the gas line, and the water line in, identify where they are, and then commit a sewer plan to the wastewater department to get it approved.
Yeah, so in this,
Rather than drawing a proposed one and then having to change it and so forth.
yeah, so in this case, just to make it clear, the wastewater department from Amy Lowell is saying before the house is even demolished, that the contractor needs to contact her division for the modification permit. So she's even saying before you even take anything down, she's requesting the modification of the permit. So where that is the referral that we're getting from wastewater division from her, and it specifically states that, we should stick with what her referral is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wessel. Anything else for conditions, Bob?
No, we did per plans, right? Per modified plans.
Yep, per plans.
You put building hours?
Yeah.
I think it's good.
All right, very good. All right, so that was a motion to approve with conditions made by Bob and seconded by Ed. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. So that motion passes unanimously. Mr. Wessel, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Okay, up next we have application 19-21 Laster, trustees, 322 Woods Hole Road in Woods Hole. And I believe attorney Lauren Moynihan is representing the applicant. So if we could get her elevated while Bob reads everything into the record.
So application 19-21, Stephen J. and Deborah Q. Lassiter, trustees of 43 Beverly Road, Wellesley, Mass., have applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to raise and reconstruct the existing detached garage and construct an addition to the dwelling on subject property known as 322 Woods Hole Road, Woods Hole, Mass. For referrals, from engineering, application was reviewed for impacts to public rights of way and public utilities. Woods Hole Road is a state right of way in this area. Any alteration within the right of way will require permission from Mass DOT. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters or rights of way. 4, dry wells are proposed for the garage and new home addition. 5, erosion and sediment controls are proposed along the northern and southern property lines to protect abutting properties. We recommend the following condition be included in any approval. Construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions. Reference to the Department of Public Works Engineering Division shall be replaced with the Zoning Board of Appeals, who is permitting authority for this project. From COMCOM, it should be noted that the proposed project is located within NHESP estimated and priority habitat, but is exempt from filing under the Wetlands Protection Act, single-family dwelling. Conservation staff have no comment on the project at this time. From the Health Department, the applicant proposes a new septic system to accommodate the increase in bedrooms. The applicant will need a septic system permit prior to construction. No issues with this project. Planning, no comment. Water Department, the water main and water service must be on the plans. And the existing home has a 1-inch water service fed from the 12-inch main in Woods Hole Road. Fire Department has no issues with the project as drawn. From assessing, this includes Lot A and 1A. And there are 1, 2, and there are 3 letters of support for the project in the file.
All right, thank you, Bob. And the voting members on this project will be the regular voting members. And on behalf of the applicant, we have Attorney Moynihan.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Mr. Laster is in the background, as well as Dave Martin. They may or may not need to be elevated, but are available for questions, just so you're aware of that. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay,
Go
and
right ahead.
show you a PowerPoint. So. All right, so this is 322 Woods Hole Road. Oh, I gotta go back to the beginning here. Sorry about that. GIS map here is showing the property highlighted. We have the oceanographic property to the back, some properties across the street, and direct abutters as well. The house and septic system and garage and developed portion of the lot are outside the Coastal Pond Overlay District and outside a Water Resource Protection District. So we have a developed neighborhood. We have existing lot coverage at 9.6%. We have a lot that's about 25,000 square feet. And the overall lot coverage existing is 21.6. So both well below the allowed lot coverage for the district. The house was built about 1940. It's a one-story house. The garage is existing. Mr. Laster tells me that when he bought the property 26 years ago, he thinks the garage was about 40 years old at that point because the roof had to be replaced and the framing is very old in the inside of the garage. So we're estimating the age on that at, maybe 50 to 60 years old. I did take some pictures. I know it's difficult for everybody to get out to the properties, especially with COVID. So this is a view of the house from Woods Hole Road. It's very well buffered from the street, and there's actually a pretty significant change of grade between the house and the street line. This is a view of the house looking up from the driveway on the lot itself. So you can see that the house is really has limited visibility from Woods Hole Road. This is the driveway going up into where the garage is located. Again, very, very well buffered. This is the garage itself. And this is a view, another street view from Woods Hole Road. I did have to brighten it up a little bit because it was kind of a dark day, but this would be taken from the abutter side to the right on the site plan. So we have a project to construct an addition to the existing one-story house. The existing height is 16 feet 10 inches, according to the architectural plans. Some significant interior renovations to the property. Really a really lovely project to upgrade this house for the family. The garage the proposal is to take it down and rebuild it and to use it for garage space and a workshop. Private workshop, and a new septic system will be installed as well. On the site plan that Dave Martin did, you can see the outline here of the existing house here. There's an addition portion on the front and then an addition portion in the back. This area will be reconstructed essentially, and I'll show you that. Here's the garage in the back. So we have these non-conforming setbacks, one on this side here, and then another one over here. These are the existing floor plans, which are in your file. We have 2 bedrooms in the house now, here, and then a den area. And I did up this colored plan because I just thought it would be a little easier to see what's existing and what's going to be rebuilt. So this blue is really a sort of an estimate or rough outline of the existing house with the screen porch, the 2 bedrooms, and the den. Then we'll have this new area added on in here, and this is actually the reconstructed portion of the house. So this is why you get the slight setback increase here, because that will be reconstructed. 2 more bedrooms here, and then we have the kitchen and dining area, screen porch, deck, and patio. So the existing deck will be taken away or removed. This is the floor plan that you have in your file with all the detail on it. The elevation plans showing you what's existing and what's proposed. And I should mention too, I didn't put this on the PowerPoint, but I noticed on the plans that there is a very slight height increase to 17 feet 6 inches. So 16 feet 10 inches to 17 6 inches for this 1-story house, just for the record. Then we have the garage. So we have this existing very old garage, and it, I think, is fair to say it's probably due to be rebuilt. And we have the plans showing how they would like to do that. There would be a very slight floor area increase of the garage of 88 square feet, nothing major, just to better accommodate the space. And the data is the additional house footprint is about 800 square feet. The additional garage footprint, 88 square feet. The lot coverage is increasing by 3.2% for structures, but still only at 12.8, well below the 20%. The lot coverage overall is increasing by 813 square feet, again, at 24.9, well under the 40% allowed in the district. So we have these non-conforming structures. We have a house that's set back 8.3 feet on the side yard, which is existing. The garage is set back 5.2 feet. There will not be a change to the garage setback, and the house side yard setback would increase slightly to 9 feet. So no changes really of any substantial nature on those setbacks. But we do think from the layout of the property, the substantial buffers where it's sited on Woods Hole Road, that it really would not be substantially more detrimental than what's existing. We have received letters of support from both direct abutters on both sides of the property, which are in your file, and one neighbor across the street also indicated no objections in writing. We think it would be a beneficial impact to improve this house and the garage to the neighborhood, and submit that the standards of the bylaw have been met for the project. And that is our presentation. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Attorney Moynihan. If you could please take down the share screen, that way I have a better view of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all right.
After a year, I'd be getting the hang of this. When I'm supposed to mute and unmute, when I'm supposed to stop share, but I still need you to tell me. So thank you.
I share your frustration.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back in person. Believe me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll turn it to board questions. Ed, do you have anything?
Oh, it's a good, looks like a good project, and make it the way they want, and you'll never see it from the street.
It's true.
Succinctly put, Ed. Mary, anything?
I have no questions.
All right, thank you. James?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Bob?
Just to confirm, what's the increase in bedrooms from what to what?
From 2 to 4.
That's the only question I have. Thank you.
All right. Ken?
So I noticed you have, it looked like a 3-bay garage do you require any special permit for that, or is the lot large enough that it's not an issue?
Only 2 bays now, Ken.
On the new one?
Yeah, it's going from 3 to 2 and then a pass door.
Okay.
So, and I had thought about, oh, sorry.
No, I'm apologizing to you.
No, thank you. I appreciate you mentioning that. I had thought about that a little bit too. And I guess we did apply for a special permit. Given the age of this garage, it would have predated any special permit requirement anyway, even if somebody did say it was a 3-car garage. So the fact that we've asked for 240-3 relief, it would be covered as a non-conforming structure on that basis without a special permit.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ken. Scott?
No, thank you. I like it.
All right, Scott. And Attorney Moynihan, Ken stole my question a little bit about the garage. But just to confirm, it looked as if it was 3 bays in the physical paperwork, but during your PowerPoint presentation, it looked slightly altered. So I'm just wondering what exactly is being proposed.
Well, I think
Unless my eyes were playing tricks on me, I thought the garage looked a little different.
it does look different. And on the existing conditions plan, it's showing 3 bays. On the proposed garage plan, it's showing a modification to that elevation so that those 3 bays are not there anymore, and you've got some windows and you've got some doorways. So I think the idea is that they would still want to use it as a garage, but that there would be workshop space and space for storing a family boat. So different usage. But I think even if it was of a size on its own to be deemed a 3-car garage, as I said, I think because of the age of it, it would be non-conforming by reason that it doesn't have a special permit now. So under 240-3, to change, alter a non-conforming structure, the special permit, if you're inclined to issue it, would cover that issue on the basis of what's being reconstructed.
All right.
That makes sense. Yeah,
it does. Thank you for clarifying that.
All right.
All right. We will turn it to public comment, I guess. If anyone out there has a question, comment, or concern regarding this project, go ahead and click the raised hand icon, and we will elevate you in a moment. Okay, not seeing anyone out there. I'll just give another moment. Anyone out there who has a question, comment, or concern, just click the raised hand icon.
I think the board could consider including a special permit under 23G just to cover the garage space.
Right, well, that was really my question, was whether we needed to include, whether the applicant should cite that section of the bylaw. But if it's not more than 9, how many square feet is the garage?
Well, the issue is that it's not an application for a new garage.
No, I understand, and I agree with you that you're probably protected under 243C, but why not add, since you're getting special permit anyway, why not add that in and just double protection?
Yeah, I think that's fine as long as it is cited under 240-3 anyway as a garage that obviously predates any special permit requirement. But the board, if it was deemed to require a special permit, then we're granting that relief under 23G. That's fine.
Right, but that's only needed. I mean, Scott pointed out it's only 2 bays. So it's only needed if there's 3 bays or it's more than 900 square feet on a lot, under 30,000 square feet, right?
Right, except that your bylaw does not reference the number of bays. Your bylaw references a footprint of more than 900 square feet or 50% or more of the footprint of the principal structure. So I just think, to be on the safe side and to be consistent, it just makes sense to include the 23G 1B as your grant.
I'm all for it. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, as long as we do have reference to the change to the non-conforming under 240-3 as well, because I think there's a legal issue there about the non-conforming nature of that building, but that's fine. Throw it all in.
Sounds good. And like your client said, he bought it way back when, and he replaced the roof thinking it was an old structure back then, right?
Correct. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
the testimony.
Sounds good to me.
And you did say it was, Laura, it was going to be a private workshop anyway, right?
Correct.
All right. Anything else from the board? I think we might have enough to close.
Make a motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Motion to close made by Scott and seconded by Ed. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. So the hearing is closed. No more testimony may be taken.
A motion to approve with conditions.
Second, Mr. Dugan's motion.
Thank you, Bob, for that motion. I'll give the second to Scott. Thank you, Scott. On to findings.
So 240-3C, 240-216, not substantially more detrimental. And we're going to be adding in 240-23G, 1B with the notation that the garage predates any special permit granting. The nonconformity is a side yard setback with the dwelling. It's 8.3. That's going to be increasing to 9. The garage side yard setback is 5.2. That will be remaining the same. Make a note that the property itself is 60 feet from the front yard. The coverages by structure is going from 9.6% to 12.8, and structures, parking, and paving 21.6 to 24.9. Both are below the allowances for the district. The existing height is of the dwelling is going to be a slight increase from 16.10 to 17.6. Property is increasing from a 2-bedroom to a 4-bedroom, but a septic system has been proposed to accommodate the 4 bedrooms.
Applicant's representative stated that the workshop would be a private workshop.
And then just notate in that, Noreen, under the findings, just a comment by Conservation that it is located within that NHESP, but it is exempt from filing under the Wetland Protections Act. Also make a notation that dry wells are proposed for the garage in the new home, and that sediment and erosion controls are proposed along the northern and southern property lines to protect any of the abutting properties. And also just make a statement that Woods Hole Road is a state road in that area, and any impacts to that would have to be dealing with Mass DOT.
All right. Anything else? All right. Moving on to conditions.
Per plans, subject to soil and erosion and sediment control standard conditions, zoning board of appeals will be referenced in place of Department Public Works Engineering Division. Make a note in the findings too that this includes lots A and 1A from assessing.
All right. Anything else for conditions?
Looks like that existing leach, the leach pit itself needs to be removed, and I don't see where it is on the plan. They're going to use the same tank and move it and put a septic field out there, but it looks like that septic, the leach pit has to be abandoned or removed.
All right. Anything else? All right. If that last call, anything? No? All right. So that was a motion to approve with conditions made by Bob and seconded by Scott. Roll call vote. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Thank you, Bob. Ken?
And Foreman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. So that motion passes unanimously. Attorney Moynihan, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, all of you. Good night.
Good night.
Aye. So, Mr. Chairman, could we go for a quick break?
Sure, let's go ahead and do that. We'll take a quick 5-minute break and we will be right back. right. Thank you, Justin. Justin says we're recording, so we're all set. Okay, up next, so taking application 16-21, Noonan, 183 Surf Drive in Falmouth. All right, we good, Bob?
Yeah, do you need to elevate anyone or?
Oh, I think we need Attorney Clower for this application.
So application number 16-21, Joseph Noonan and Mary Noonan, 12 Pleasant Hill Road, Norfolk, Mass, have applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240-3C and 240-69E of the Code of Falmouth to raise and rebuild the non-conforming dwelling, increasing lot coverage by structures on subject property known as 183 Surf Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For referrals, from wastewater, and this is dated March 26th. Looks like increasing to 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms is allowed under the flow neutral bylaw, so no flow neutral bylaw hearing is required. The contractor or owner's representative will need to apply to the wastewater division for a sewer connection modification permit before beginning work. And then there is a contact number for that area before demolishing the house. The wastewater division will want to witness a cut and cap of the sewer line to prevent any demolition debris from entering the sewer. From engineering division, this application was reviewed for impacts to public rights of way and public utilities. Seagull Lane is a private right of way in this area. 2, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 3, the project does not direct any stormwater runoff to public property abutters or public rights of way. 4, a leaching trench is proposed for the roof area. 5, as mentioned in our review in 2020, the address for this home must be changed to Seagull Lane address. Engineering will not sign off on a building permit until that change has been made. We recommend the following condition be included in any approval. Upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence per section 99(1), affixing of legible numbers required and time limit for compliance. And where this project is subject to Conservation Commission jurisdiction and is not on a public road or adjacent to town property, we defer to the Commission for Erosion and Sediment Controls. From Concom, an amended order of condition was issued on March 3rd, 2021. According to the plan titled Site Plan, a proposed house prepared for Mary and Joseph Noonan, 183 Surf Drive, Falmouth, with a revision date of 12/3/2020. The original order of conditions and amended order of conditions are attached, as well as the plan of reference. The applicant should submit a copy of the plan submitted to the ZBA with the final revision date 2/12/21, showing the details of the proposed deck and platform dimensions to the Conservation Department for their records. From the Water Department. The water main and service must be on the plans. The existing home is fed with a 3/4 inch service and meter pit from a 2-inch line in Seagull Lane. This should include an upgrade of the 3/4 inch service to a 1-inch service. the removal of the meter pit with the new meter installed in the home, and to the extent practicable for the upgraded service tapped into the 8-inch main in Surf Drive. From the fire department has no issues with the project as drawn. From assessors, no comment. From planning, no comment. From the health, again, the property is on public sewer, so they refer to the wastewater division, and that was the previous referral. There is one letter in the file of opposition. This letter is dated April 20th, 2021. It is from Edward W. Kirk, attorney at law, regarding appeal number 16-21, Joseph and Mary Noonan, Seagull Lane / Surf Drive. Dear ladies and gentlemen, as you may recall from previous hearings and correspondence on the matter, I represent Gloria Arces, who resides at 11 Seagull Lane and is an immediate abutter to the subject parcel. On behalf of Mrs. Arces, this office submitted a series of memoranda outlining the basis of her opposition to the previous project. With respect to this current application, Mrs. Arces would note with some appreciation the fact that the applicant has moved the proposed structure further away from the property line by a distance of some 7 feet, and that there has been some reduction in the bulk of the proposed structure. Those positive adjustments notwithstanding, in terms of overall impact to the neighborhood, there is little difference between the current proposal and the one which was apparently headed for denial when the applicant was allowed to withdraw without prejudice. The existing structure is a 1-story dwelling with 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. As with the previous proposal, the applicant is proposing to construct a 2-story, 4-bedroom, 3-bath residential structure at the same height and essentially at the same scale as the previous project. The applicant would argue that by placing the structure on elevated pilings, there would be a reduction in detriment because of the reduced likelihood of damage caused by a major storm or flooding event. We would respectfully suggest that the issue or concept of detriment is more properly considered in the context of a day-to-day use and presence in that neighborhood, and not in the context of what will occur in the event of a natural disaster. Even taking into account the requirement to elevate the structure to conform with the floodplain regulations, the board had previously been inclined to believe that the proposed project was out of scale with the neighborhood and would constitute a detriment, particularly in the view of the fact that the proposed project is actually a part of the unique Seagull Lane neighborhood. The lot does not have direct access to Surf Drive. The town engineer has once again required that the property address must be designated as located on Seagull Lane and not Surf Drive. The applicant has acknowledged that the lot is undersized and therefore non-conforming, not only with respect to area, but also with respect to the location of the existing and proposed structures with respect to required setbacks. There are other legal issues with respect to this particular parcel. The applicant has represented that the lot contains 7,603 square feet. In fact, the lot contains 7,520 square feet as per plan dated August 9th, 1963, attached as Exhibit 1. The lot as presently constituted was created at a time where minimum area requirement was 10,000 square feet. All the plans submitted by the applicant for the proposed project show the 40-foot way known as Seagull Lane coming to an end before reaching the nearest lot line of the subject parcel. See attached Exhibit 1. Attached Exhibits 2, 3, and 4 show the historical progression of the creation of the subject parcel. The subject parcel's access to Seagull Lane is by way of an easement across the irregularly shaped parcel of land located just beyond the southerly end of Seagull Lane. It does not constitute direct legal frontage on any approved way. Conclusion. Where the plan is essentially the same as that which the board was inclined to deny at the conclusion of the prior application process, and where the status of the applicant's property as a lawful, non-conforming lot with legal frontage on an approved way is open to serious question, Mrs. Arces requests the application be denied. Respectively submitted, Edward W. Kirk, with an enclosure to Kevin Clower, Esquire. And attached to that are the items that were referenced as exhibits.
All right, thank you, Bob. And before we begin the hearing, I think we all understand that the project or this property is concerning a project that was previously withdrawn. That would be application 5-20. As far as the voting members on this project goes, I went back and I took a look at our records, and the voting members on the previous project were myself, Bob Dugan, Ed Van Kuren, Mary Berry, and James Morse. If there's no objection among the members, I would like to keep those members as the voting members for this project, just for the sake of continuality and our familiarity with the subject property. So I guess I'm specifically asking Ken and Scott, are you all right if the
Get no
associate?
objection from me.
That's fine with me.
Yeah,
Fan-
go for it.
Fantastic. All right. With that having been said, Attorney Clower.
If I can just ask a quick point of clarification, Mr. Hurry.
Sure.
I'm not an expert on board processes by any means, but when the permanent members are present, is it normal to select alternate voting members? I'm just curious because I've never seen that done before.
I
might be able
suppose I
to-
could do it. Noreen, go right
I
ahead.
might be able to speak to that for you.
Sure.
For consistency purposes, it's very typical that if possible, you would maintain the same board members. The purpose for that is because they have received all the previous presentations and would be technically most familiar with the material. So while you're not bound to that, that is typical protocol.
That's perfectly fine. I hadn't seen it done before, so I was curious for my own sake. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicants, Joseph and Mary Noonan, the owners of 183 Surf Drive. The applicants are here with us this evening, as is Tim Santos of Holmes McGrath Engineering. Greg Sarunian of Rescom was here previously, but had a commitment at 8 p.m. and had to leave. The applicants are seeking permission to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming dwelling at 183 Surf Drive. This property is located between Surf Drive and Seagull Lane on a lot of 7,603 square feet. It is located in the RC zoning district and is in the VE15 flood zone. As was mentioned, this board will recall that we were before this zoning board last year with a similar project, at which time we withdrew without prejudice in order to revisit and revise the plans. The applicants worked hard with the design team to reduce the size and impact of the dwelling. That said, I do want to provide the appropriate background info, a lot of which was covered at the previous application, but I think it's best to put it here for the sake of the record. And it's been some time, and there's been a lot of applications since then. The Noonans purchased this property in 1994 and have been seasonal residents and taxpayers for 27 years, and they're now looking to make this their full-time residence. Given this property's location in the V zone, the renovations trigger necessity of FEMA compliance, so they really must raise and rebuild the structure pursuant to both the building code and the FEMA regulations. In order to do that, they have to raise the structure so that all mechanicals and floor joists, or joists rather, supporting the first floor are at least 2 feet above the flood zone elevation. In this case, that means they have to be at least elevation 17.
Pardon me, Mr. Cloud, just for a second. Is anyone else getting feedback?
I am getting.
I'm losing some of the words with some kind of feedback.
I was just about to say the same thing, Bob. Thank you. So why don't we try this? If everyone just mutes themselves while Attorney Clower is presenting, maybe that might help the situation.
So I don't have anything else here, so I'm not sure if it's on my end, and I'm not sure how much of that the board wants me to revisit, if everyone felt like they got enough of a handle on what I just went over, or I can certainly restate that.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Could you restate that, please?
I'd be happy to. So, as was mentioned, you will recall that we were here last year with a similar project, which time we withdrew without prejudice in order to revisit and revise the plans. The applicants worked hard with the design team to find ways to reduce the size and the impact of the dwelling. I want to provide some appropriate background information to establish the record for this hearing. The Noonans purchased this property in 1994, and they have been seasonal residents and taxpayers for 27 years. They're now looking to make this their full-time residence. This property is located in the velocity zone, and the renovations trigger a necessity of compliance with the flood zone standards, in which case they must raise and rebuild the structure. Pursuant to both the building code and FEMA regulations, the structure must be raised so that all mechanicals and joists supporting the first floor are at least 2 feet above the flood zone elevation. In this case, that means that it must be at elevation 17. Presently, there's an existing one-story dwelling with a footprint of 1,277 square feet. It's non-conforming to the front yard setback being 21.2 feet, where 25 rather is required, and it's non-conforming to the 3-foot contour being 9 feet, where 50 feet is required. The applicants have proposed, again, to raise and rebuild the house with a modestly expanded footprint and a larger living area in order to reflect this being their primary year-round residence. The front yard non-conforming setback will be eliminated. It'll be improved to 28 feet. And the 3-foot contour setback will be slightly improved, 9 feet to 10 feet. The lot coverage by structure will be 21.8%. And as noted, the elevation of the joists for the first floor will be elevation 17. Due to the existing nonconformities and the resulting lot coverage by structure of 21.8%, this does require a special permit under both 243C and 240-69E. 243C allows for alterations to non-conforming structures provided that they're not substantially more detrimental than what exists. The board is asked to consider 242-16 and whether or not that alteration creates new dimensional nonconformities, impairs views and vistas, and conforms to the average dimensions in the neighborhood. 240-69E allows for lot coverage by structure above 20%, and the board is asked to consider the size and height of the structure in relation to the average size and height of structures in the neighborhood, the effect of shadow on adjacent properties, the impact on views and vistas from public ways, and the effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. Here, we have a front yard setback that's eliminated. It's improved to 28 feet. The 3-foot contour is improved. There's no new nonconformity created. In addition, the proposal includes over 1,500 square feet of mitigation plantings, which is a visual improvement as well as additional protection for the river. The proposed structure is not substantially more detrimental, and coupled with compliance with the FEMA regulations, the plantings, the elimination of a nonconformity, the improvement of another nonconformity, I believe it constitutes a significant improvement. As to the standards of 240-69E, with regards to shadow, it's clear this will be a larger structure, but the location and the surrounding properties help minimize that effect. There's many nearby properties, including 199 Surf Drive, 189 Surf Drive, 181 Surf Drive, that have all likewise elevated. The owners of the the owners of the directly abutting property at 185 Surf Drive, Frank and Judy Stepien, previously submitted a letter of support for this project. They are here tonight, and they are in support of this project. They are perhaps the property most affected by this proposal. Previously, 12 letters of support from both immediate abutters and owners along Seagull Lane were all submitted. As to views and vistas, this will be visible, but that requirement takes into account the view from public ways. This is similar to the other buildings that surround it. It's not negatively impacting the view, and the board has consistently taken a position that the zoning bylaw does not protect private views. There's no effect of nitrogen on coastal embayments. This property is on the sewer. And as to the size and height, we did submit the lot comparison worksheet, which show the footprint and the gross building area of the 26 dwellings within 300 feet. Of those, 9 have larger footprint and 8 have larger gross floor areas. This is not out of line for the neighborhood at all. Much of the size of the structure is required by the necessity of elevation, required by both building and FEMA. This is not the first property, and it's certainly not the last that's going to have to elevate to accommodate these requirements. That said, this project is in line with those other homes, both in terms of footprint and gross building area. The board is asked to consider these issues. They're also asked to consider whether the proposal will have adverse effects compared to its beneficial effects. Here, we have substantial improvements to the property, compliance with the flood zone standards, an eliminated non-conforming setback, an improved non-conforming setback, and those mitigation plantings. And not to be lost in all of this, it's a much more useful property for the owners. We were aware of the letter of opposition submitted by Attorney Kirk on behalf of Ms. Arquez. As before, she expressed her opposition, but I don't believe there's any grounds in the letter that would support a denial of this project. As before, I believe that the opposition is predicated on preservation of her view. And I think it's worth noting that if the applicant were to raise the existing structure and rebuild only that existing structure but elevated, it would have a more negative effect on Ms. Arquez's property. Following this logic, the Noonans would be forever prevented from improvements to the property that would run contrary to the building code, to FEMA requirements, to public policy, and to basic common sense. The letter cites the concerns of the neighborhood, but the neighbors are in favor of this project, both on Surf Drive and on Siegel Lane. I think it's important to look at the changes that the applicants have made since their withdrawal last year. The setback from Ms. Arquez's property to the north has been increased 7 feet, from 16 feet to 23 feet. The setback, the tidal waters of Vineyard Sound, has been increased from 9 feet to 10 feet. The front yard setbacks is still eliminated, but it's improved from 26 feet to 28 feet. The building height was reduced from 35 feet to 34 feet 5 inches. The proposed lot coverage by structure was reduced from 23.2% to 21.8%. And the gross floor area of the dwellings has been reduced by 700 square feet, from 3,528 square feet to 2,880 square feet. The applicant, as I said, has worked hard with their design team to find ways to reduce the scope and impact of this project and reduce the potential effects. They wanted to try to address the concerns expressed by both the board and by Ms. Arquez. I've said this before at other hearings of this nature. I said it at the hearing for this exact property, but I think it's important to note that this is what we want from homeowners. We want them to improve their properties. They're required to, and it's necessary for the health and resiliency of the town in order to minimize damage in the event of flooding and storms. But they're required to, so we have to find ways to encourage this. This proposed revised residence is not substantially more detrimental than what exists. I've said it before, but again, it's a substantial improvement to the property. It complies with the flood zone standards. It eliminates the non-conforming setback to the front yard. It improves the non-conforming setback to the side yard. There's substantial plantings, and it meets the standards of 243C, 24069E, and 24216. These applicants have taken every effort to do this in a responsible and efficient manner. And I think that this board can and should grant the special permit. I'd be happy to address any questions that you have at this time.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Clower. We'll turn it over to board questions then. Ed, any questions?
No, I don't have any.
All right. Scott? Nothing. All right. Thank you, Scott. James?
Got the first question I had about in terms of the ridge height down to 34.5. Mr. Clower, any reductions in the overall bulk from the first submission that we were acting on a year ago?
Yes, there is. So as I mentioned, the lot coverage by structure has been reduced from 23.2% down to 21.8%. And the gross floor area of the structure has been reduced from 3,528 square feet to 2,880 square feet.
Thank you. And thank you for the work that you and the applicant put in on addressing the neighbors' concerns. I don't have any additional questions at this point, Mr. Chair. If something comes up, I'll let you know.
Sure. Thank you, James. Mary, anything?
I guess one question I have has to do with the difference in calculation between the 7,603 and the 7,520 from the 1963 plan.
So I looked at the 1963 plan, and if you look at the southern border of that, it shows a lot distance of, bear with me 1 second. It shows a distance of, what's that? Of 75 feet. And if you look at the plan that was prepared by Holmes McGrath, that southern border here is shown as 81 feet. So resource areas change over time. There can be accretion, land can build up, especially along a river's edge. And that southern border is shown as being longer on the current plan. I think that probably accounts for the majority of the difference right there.
You will also find variances between older surveys and current surveys. Certainly the equipment that they use nowadays is far more precise and reliable than surveys of older days.
Thank you, Noreen. And Mary, anything else?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Mary. Ken?
Nope, I don't have any questions on this.
Thank you, Ken. Bob?
So just regarding that on the southern side, it's gonna pull that. So is that the water side that you're
Yeah,
saying might have increased?
If I can share my screen real quick, Mr. Buchanan, I'd be happy to show you what I was referring to.
Go right ahead, Attorney Clower.
So I'll try to use a simpler plan here. This is the existing conditions plan, and I'm going to do my best to annotate this if I can. If you look right here, that shows a distance of 81 feet from the benchmark to the water's edge. If you look at the 1963 plan that Attorney Kirk referenced, that distance is shown as 75 feet.
So on that previous plan was 75 feet, and I understand how things could change with the water. Was that riprap there before? Because it appears that the lot stops prior to the water where you can build up.
I honestly don't know.
So it does, again, with the Attorney Kirk's letter, does this property have any frontage on Seagull Lane?
I believe it does. I haven't gotten into the title of the property, but again, we have an existing house that has frontage and access on Seagull Lane. We're not looking to change that. We're not looking to gain access on Seagull Lane where it didn't exist before. We're simply looking to change the structure that's on the lot.
And you're saying that currently then the main easement besides the road, then it's an easement access over the adjacent
That's
property?
Attorney Kirk's position. I didn't say that.
Okay, so when I drive in there to get to the property, I have to drive over what appears to be another property's driveway. Is that how they access this property?
They access it from the end of Seagull Lane, and that's that property that to the west is Frank and Judy Stepien, and as I mentioned, they are in the audience this evening. But that is how the property is accessed.
And so is that an easement then because they're accessing it over that adjacent property?
I don't believe it's an easement. I believe that's considered part of Seagull Lane.
All right, I was just going by the bounds out there, so I guess we can find out that at a later date. I did have one question. So when I went out there on the stakes, the lot line stakes at the front of property, and I think they were there in the last time when we had the last hearing, but those are not there anymore. I'd like to see those in, just going back, knowing exactly where the lot is on that side, where that adjacent property is, or Seagull Lane. And then there were two stakes out towards the water where the labeling had been crossed out, and I didn't know what those were for. They were actually where they're black labeled. Someone had taken a pen and crossed it out. Are those old stakes, or is that also part of this layout?
I have text bubbles coming up from Tim Santos right now, so bear with me for 1 second. He said they restaked a few weeks ago. It may have been moved, but he's not sure.
So maybe they could put those lot stakes back. Do you have any?
Can we activate Tim? Actually,
He's in the attendees list, isn't he, Attorney Clower?
I believe he is.
Sure. So Tim Santos, you said, right?
Yes, Tim S.
Sure.
H&M.
Tim S. All right. If we could get him elevated, please.
Do you have any comparison slides, or can you submit some comparison of the difference between the last structure that was proposed and this one?
I don't have any. We didn't do sort of an overlay. The project's been moved. There's been some pretty changes to the building itself. I'd be happy to show the old plans. I don't want to confuse the matter by thinking that we're submitting the old plans versus the new.
No, I just know that they did do changes there, and I just wanted to see visually what the differences were. I know that you have a height change of about 7. It appears the height is going to be changed about 7 inches?
7 inches, and then about 700 less gross floor area.
And then on this plan, it shows 2 parking spaces under. I'm not sure if the other one had parking under, but was that an improvement?
I believe that was on the previous plans too, but if we want to call it an improvement, then absolutely.
All right, that's all I have right now.
All right. And it looks like we were able to elevate Mr. Santos You with us, Mr. Santos?
Yes, I'm with you. Unfortunately, my camera's not working because I happen to be in a vehicle right now. So I apologize.
No worries. Can you speak to the staking out there regarding
Yeah. So
concerns?
yes, it was staked, I believe, 2 weeks ago with the front lot corners as well as the new location of the proposed structure. If the stakes are missing and the board would like it restaked, we can get it restaked, but it was staked. As far as something being crossed out on the stake, they might have taken one of the old stakes that might have said, limit of work or mitigation plantings for conservation and crossed it out and wrote proposed house on it. So that's what the cross out might have been.
Yeah, so Tim, on the two crossout stakes, and they are closer to the water, they actually didn't relabel them anything. They just crossed out all the labels, but left the stakes intact. And in the stakes in front I was inquiring on are the actual lot line stakes. I did see some of the house corners, but I was actually trying to find the lot line on that front portion.
There were two stakes set at those corners. There is 30 feet of frontage along the Seagull Lane. That it's kind of like an old T-type. If you look at, I think it might have been Exhibit 3. I can't remember because I'm trying to go off my head while I'm driving. I think it was Exhibit 3 that Attorney Kirk submitted. It shows when they created the turnaround. So both of those lots, 185 and Mr. Noonan's lot, would have frontage on Seagull Lane.
So I guess, Mr. Clower, what I would be looking for just for some additional information then, because we keep referring to what's on Seagull Lane and what isn't on Seagull Lane. If it does front Seagull Lane, maybe a plan that actually shows where it fronts Seagull Lane.
If you look on our existing conditions plan, it shows 30 feet of frontage. Seagull Lane comes all the way down.
Yeah, and even if you look at the plans Attorney Kirk submitted, the 1951 plan, there's a 1951 plan, and then there's the 1963 plan, all show 30 feet of frontage along Seagull Lane.
Okay, so the one I'm looking at, I guess the one I'm looking at is from Holmes McGrath. And let's see, this is on the main locus map, and this is dated January 28th, 20. And where Seagull Lane is shown, it shows that there's a concrete bound here, but it almost appears that it isn't Seagull Lane.
That is Seagull Lane. What you're seeing is there's a line there that defines where I believe it's kind of like the different edges of pavement and gravel that's kind of in that area.
Okay.
So that's where at the end of Seagull Lane, you see a line that comes from the right to the left. And that's like an edge of pavement. It might be the difference between the edge of the pavement, but Seagull Lane wraps all the way around.
It's just a little confusing there, I guess, with the driveway next door.
Yes.
So maybe the driveway next door is actually parking on the lane versus in their actual driveway.
I'm not sure about that, but it could be.
That's all I have right now.
Any other questions for Mr. Santos, since he's currently driving at the moment and participating in this hearing at the same time?
No, just that if they do have a chance, if they could just restake those front lot lines.
All right. Mr. Santos.
And have him check the two stakes that either have to be relabeled or removed or whatever he decides.
Mr. Santos, thank you. We'll let you go, and I'm sure Attorney Clower will relay any information if the board wants everything restaked or what have you. But thank you for your time.
Not a problem. Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Bob?
No, I would like to see some kind of a comparison elevation on the proposed versus the surrounding structures. Specifically, the coming from the entrance of Seagull, I think it's Seagull Lane itself off of Mill Road.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have one more question, Mr. Clown. I don't even know is a right or wrong answer to this, but they mentioned in Mr. Kirk's letter that when they did divide these lots up, they divided this lot smaller, even though there was a $10,000 minimum lot size?
So we went over this a little bit the last time. The subdivision plan was approved by the planning board. It wasn't an A&R plan, but we did receive approval by the planning board. There's any number of reasons that could have been the case. It could have been considered a cluster subdivision. That might have been what accounted for the creation of that hammer turnaround, that T-top turnaround. It could be a cluster subdivision, which allows for smaller lot sizes. But again, I go back to the fact that this is an existing structure, existing lot. We're not creating a new structure. We're not trying to create a new buildable lot. We're simply trying to alter the structure that's on that lot.
All right. Any other follow-up questions from the board at this time for Attorney Clower? All right. At least how we did
Mr.
things.
Chairman, may I ask one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Scott.
Attorney Clower, you just said you're not trying to change or alter. Isn't this a raise and reconstruct?
I mean, I think you misunderstood, sir. I'm not trying to change or alter the lot. We're trying to raise and reconstruct the building, yes, but we're not creating a new lot here. Is what I was saying. The lot, we have an existing non-conforming structure on a lot of land, and we're seeking to raise and reconstruct that existing non-conforming structure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. So I believe when we first took this property under consideration, we did hear from Attorney Kirk, and I see that he is in the attendees list tonight. So how would the board feel about granting some time to Attorney Kirk so he can summarize his client's position for us? Would
That's fine.
Everyone be in favor of that? All right. If we could go ahead and elevate Ed Kirk, please. All right, Attorney Kirk, you've been elevated, so you'll just have to turn on your video and your microphone. All right, looks like you unmuted yourself. Are you there, Attorney Kirk?
Yes, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. And my screen's telling me Zoom is unable to detect a camera. So maybe you can see me, you can hear me, but you can't see me.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine, but we can't see you. But I think
right.
that's okay for the purposes of tonight.
I think that's probably just as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity. There was at the last series of hearings, I had submitted a total, I think, of 3 memoranda that covered a lot of information, and I made reference to them in my letter, which Mr. Dugan read, but I didn't resubmit everything. I thought I would just briefly summarize the highlights here. We do appreciate the fact that the Noonans moved the proposed structure away from the property line by an additional 7 feet. And we do appreciate that there's been some reduction in the bulk, and also understand their situation. These are tough cases, especially where you have the floodplain requirements. But when we were here last, for the benefit of Kevin and what he was going to do about withdrawing and whether or not having to run the gauntlet of the planning board in order to come back, he did have the benefit of the board's discussions the last go around. And it seemed to me at that time that there was a sentiment, at least with 2, maybe 3 members of the board, that this structure was going to be a detriment to the neighborhood, and there was particular focus on the Seagull Lane neighborhood and how this particular proposed structure would fit in there. And that the site and the site was not adequate for a structure this size, and that it would be a detriment. Now, I understand perfectly that you're not bound by anything that you said at a prior hearing, and you didn't make a decision. But this is essentially the same project that it was before, even though there have been some adjustments made in terms of its impact on the neighborhood and still with respect to my client. It will be essentially detrimental. And if the burden is on the applicant to show that it's not substantially detrimental, we still believe that they have not met that burden. And so, we have the same request that we did previously with the board, that it be denied. With respect to the lot size, it's not the point that I was trying to make on the plans is not the size that it is now if you go out and measure because of accretion or what have you. It's the fact that when the plan was recorded in 1963, the new plan, there was a minimum area requirement of 10,000 square feet. And they presented a plan that had 4 lots, including this one, that did not meet that minimum area requirement. So that's the point. It's not so much your measurement today along the water line. It's that from the get-go, this was not a legal building lot. It did not conform to zoning at that time. The Holmes and McGrath plan, and they're very competent engineers, seems to show that Seagull Lane ends with the solid line. And it's described Seagull Lane private dash 40 feet wide gravel road. And then there's this irregular shaped parcel at the end. So there's no direct access between Seagull Lane as it was originally laid out and as it's shown on the Holmes and McGrath plan. There's a driveway that leads from the end of Seagull Lane across this other parcel that was tagged on at the end of Seagull Lane. And they go down that driveway across that parcel to their land. So those are the two legal points, if you will, that I just wanted to weigh in on. But the main concern here, I think those are important points. Do you have a legal lot with frontage? But I think the main concern about the board, from the board last time, was this question of scale and size and detriment to the neighborhood. And we, again, notwithstanding the adjustments, which are helpful, we think it's the same plan, and we think they have not demonstrated that this structure is not substantially more detrimental than what's there now. And that, unfortunately, is the test. What's there now, and what do they propose? From 16 feet high to 35 feet high, from 2 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms, from 1 bath to 3 baths and an office. I think it's too much. So that's all I would have to say, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Kirk. Let me check in with the board and see if anyone has any questions for you. Anyone?
Yeah, so I have one question for Attorney Kirk. So the applicant stated tonight that if the house was elevated to meet the floodplain requirements with the same height or just what it is now, but elevated, that would be more detrimental to your client versus what they are proposing. Any opinion on that?
To be honest with you, I would have a hard time accepting that right now without seeing the current structures on the elevated pilings. What's there now is 1 story with a very low roof line, and what's proposed is 2 stories with, a lot, seems to me a lot bigger structure. So I just, I don't see it that way at this time. Maybe it could be shown that that's true, but I haven't been able to imagine that.
Thank you. That's the only question I had.
All right. Anyone else on the board for Attorney Kirk?
None.
All right, seeing none. Attorney Kirk, thank you for your time tonight.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Okay, Attorney Clara, I don't know if you wanted to address any concerns that Attorney Kirk brought up.
I thought there were some interesting points in there that are worth discussing. So just in reference to, the current 2-bedroom versus 4-bedroom being a detriment. I mean, it's allowed 4 bedrooms by right. It's on the sewer. I don't see that as being a detriment, especially whereas we're improving the parking on the site by allowing for parking underneath now, as opposed to where that doesn't exist currently. He also talked about the building height being 16 feet currently versus 35. That's true. However, when you consider the fact that the first floor of elevation must be, the joists rather supporting that floor must be elevation 17. We're going to elevation 35. That's 17 and a half feet. That's the building height that we have. That's the actual building size that we have. So when you think about this, I mean, it's being elevated because it has to be. If it was 16 feet versus 17 feet, I don't think makes a big practical difference. And when I spoke to it being more of a detriment, again, Mr. Hardy, if I can share my screen, I think it's
Sure, go ahead.
If you look at the existing conditions plan and you see the location of the house where it is right now, whereas it's effectively squared to Miss Arquiz's property. And if you look at the proposed, this is slanted in such a way that it provides more of a view to her with it being elevated than if it was squared to her property. So when I talk about it being more of a detriment if we were to simply go up, that's what I mean. I think that the layout of the property is done in such a way that, yes, it does optimize things for my clients, but it also improves what would be the conditions for Ms. Arquiz. And they've sought to address her concerns, and I think they've sought to address the board's concerns. And I also thought it important, again, if I can share for a moment, and I realize this is from the last hearing, but I think it's helpful when we talk about being a detriment to the neighborhood. Bear with me for 1 second. There's one person who thinks it's a detriment to the neighborhood. What I've highlighted in blue is the neighbors that have supported this project, who had previously submitted letters of support for this project. Green being the applicant, this pink outline being Ms. Arquiz, and every other blue property being properties that had submitted letters of support on behalf of the application. So if the neighborhood doesn't think it's a detriment to the neighborhood, I don't see how it is. And these things are not popularity contests, and I understand that. I understand that as well as anyone. But I think it is important when we start talking about something being a neighborhood detriment, if the neighborhood doesn't think it's a detriment, and there's nothing to show that it's a detriment, other than perhaps the diminution of one person's view, I don't see the problem here, especially when every other property that's abutting this is going through similar projects of raising and rebuilding and expanding the property.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Clower. Might be appropriate to turn it over to public comment at this point. So if anyone out there has a question, comment, or concern regarding this project, go ahead and click the raised hand icon utilizing the Zoom app, and we will elevate you in a moment. All right, I do see one person out there. And again, if there's anyone else out there, just go ahead and click the raised hand icon, and it'll just be in the queue waiting. So we'll go ahead and elevate Frank Stepien, please. All right, Mr. Stepien, you've been elevated, so you'll have to turn on your microphone and your video, which you have. Welcome. If you could give your address and whatever question, comment, or concern you may have.
Yeah, my address is 185 Surf Drive. We're direct abutters to Joe and Mary's property on 183 on the west side of their property. And we bought in 2016. And when we bought the house directly in front of us, which is 189 Surf Drive was in the building phase. And it was quite a shock at first, but understood that, we talked to them and we understand why they did it. It's the same reason that Joe and Mary are doing it, and probably eventually us as well. But in order to conform to FEMA standards and everything, they had to raise as well. So, and then shortly after they finished, a couple of years later, the house next door to them did the exact same thing. So now in front of us, we've got 3 houses in front of us on Surf Drive. Every one of them has been raised and expanded, and they're all using at least 20 to 25% of their lot. I think one of them's at 25. So, and just to point out on Seagull, most of the lot, I think every lot on Seagull that aligns Fresh River is 2 stories at this point. There is no ranches left on that side. So Joe and Mary's house, our house, are probably, and there's one house next to us, which is directly across the street from Gloria's property, is still a ranch. But our house and Joe's are really the only 2 in that cluster that are not raised. So the properties, and along with the ones along Fresh River. So we're in full support of it, understand it, and the area is changing, and that's what's happening. So we have no problem with it at all.
All right. Mr. Stepien, thank you for your comments tonight.
Can I ask
Any questions from the board, Bob?
Yeah, just so Mr. Stepien, is your property the one that has the driveway?
Yes.
You start to go into the turn. So because that's your property, where does Seagull Lane start in your or end in your property start? Are they actually going across your property to enter this, or as was submitted tonight, is that whole section actually Seagull Lane and not your driveway?
Well, I to be honest with you, we'd have to look at the plot plans to understand that. But we've never even given it much thought. When we purchased the property, there's 2 separate driveways there. So Seagull Lane, really what happens, it's paved from some point on Seagull Lane, and then the 2 driveways exist. So they probably did that when they built the homes. I'm not sure. That was existing. So without seeing some type of a engineering drawing, I couldn't tell you that for sure, Bob.
Okay, and is there there was a mention that if it was that way, they have an easement across your property. Is that correct?
Well, we've treated it as such. I mean, we use each other's driveways at times, but many people in the neighborhood, there's not many people that have driveways, so to speak. Even the people right next to us, they park on the lawn. They don't have a driveway. They back out into the street. Some people back all the way down the street. It's fairly narrow, but it's a gravel road, and that's the way the neighborhood is. So we don't have a problem dealing with it. And even the property next to Joe and Mary's, there's not really an official driveway. So they back into the street and turn around as well. So it's just pretty much the area, if you will.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Anything else from Mr. Stepien?
No.
All right. Mr. Stepien, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And if anyone out there with a question, comment, or concern, I don't see any other raised hands, but I'll just give it a moment if anyone else has anything. Okay, not seeing anyone else out there, so back to the board. Are there any follow-up questions for Attorney Clower? All right, nothing from the board. Bob, I think you were hitting on a good idea there with the just confirming and maybe restaking, especially the concerns that you were raising. There might have been some reused stakes out there. We're not quite sure what they may or may not represent.
Yeah, and if possible, if he could submit, and I know it was a previous application, but just some kind of comparison. It could just be an elevation or a facade, or what the difference bulk-wise looks from the last application to this one.
Revised bulk calculations, is that what you said?
Well, no, I mean, So I had one of the issues in the last application. So one of my issues was the neighborhood itself, which even though they're looking at the homes on Surf Drive, in my opinion, the neighborhood is the Seagull Lane neighborhood because the only access is off of Mill Road. It has a very different feel and look than you're on Surf Drive. So when I'm looking at changes to a neighborhood or a detriment, even these flood zones, I'm looking to see some kind of comparison of what the proposed property is compared to the other ones. I know we didn't get into shadow issues tonight, but when you're dealing with lots that are, 6,000 square feet, and you have a chance that was mentioned tonight that the adjacent property may at a future time, and they may try to do something similar. You're now getting these clusters that shadow can become an issue. So I would just like to see what some kind of comparison is, if it's a drawing or something comparing, looking in from the Mill Road side, again, the lot stakes. I would like to get some kind of answer on this Seagull Lane, just for confirmation on where is this actual Seagull Lane end and something else begins, only because we may see other projects in future that own portions that we're just not aware of. And there must be something in that original plan or something when the planning board did their approval of the lots. They keep saying that the planning board approved the lot undersized at the time. There's got to be a specific reason for that. I don't know if that's still appropriate or not, or maybe they have something on that on why they allowed this, and maybe they didn't think of things that happen in the future. But I like to have that information. The stakes that were crossed out, I like to just have labeled on whatever they are. So that's what I'd be looking for. And then I just want to review all the material that's been submitted tonight. We're gone over by Mr. Clower, and also the points that were made by Mr. Kirk.
All right.
Mr.
Thank you,
Dugan,
Bill.
I think I can speak quickly to Seagull Lane, and I understand that you'd like clarification, and I'm happy to submit something to that effect. But even looking at Mr. Kirk's letter, if you look, there's a 1951 plan that shows Seagull Lane with that sort of T turnaround at the end, with this lot having 30 feet of frontage. And then subsequently in 1963, there was a lot that just tweaked those there was a plan that tweaked those lot lines. So that our lot, I'm using the royal we, so to speak, goes from 7,600 square feet to 7,520 square feet. And there's similar adjustments to the other plans. That's the 1963 plan. The plan that created this lot and established Seagull Lane as the road and shows the frontage on this lot was filed in 1951. And that is as part of Attorney Kirk's letter shown as Exhibit 3. So I think we have a lot of this information already. I'm happy to provide you with something. But I think it's fairly clear that there is this T turnaround at the end of Seagull Lane that provides frontage both to our lot and to Mr. Stepian's lot.
And I'll look that over again. But if you have anything that you think might be some kind of clarification, you just mentioned that when these lots were subdivided, it was part of the Seagull Lane subdivision. So these weren't part of a division of lots on Surf Drive.
No, it actually was a Surf Drive lot that was subdivided into 4 separate lots.
So that was separate then from the Seagull Lane subdivision?
Yes, no, what I was saying is there's a portion of that is shown as creating that T turnaround on Seagull Lane. So there's 2 lots that front on Surf Drive, which are now 181 and 187, I think, Surf Drive. And then there's our lot and Mr. Stepian's lot that were all created out of this one lot that had frontage on Surf Drive, which is how this property came to have a Surf Drive address in the first place.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Expectations for the next hearing. Anyone else? Oh, Ken, looks like you're trying to chime in there, or maybe? No?
No, sorry.
So, okay. Anything in addition? Sure, no worries. Anything in addition to what Bob's requesting? Anyone at all? All right.
So,
Noreen?
yeah. Do we have a date for continuation?
Your next two dates would be May 16 or May 13.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, something's off on that.
Sorry, May 6 or May 13 would be your next meetings.
So on May, there's a chance I may not be here May 6th, but on May 13th, don't we have 340Bs that night?
You do.
Is there a date just beyond that?
May 20th.
So then I'd rather go May 20th.
That's kind of, well, let me just say your agendas are brief. So.
How many, yeah, what's on the May 20th? How long is the?
So you've got a 40B that night and you've already got 3 cases scheduled. 4. They're probably not too bad. I mean, yeah. I mean,
so less than 340Bs. I guess that's a.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how much time you feel like you're going to need for this.
Yeah, I don't know. If I had the choice between the dates, I'd go the 20th versus the 6th, just because I've got might have a schedule conflict. But...
All right. Attorney Clower, do either one of those dates work for you, or is one more preferable than the other?
I mean, in fairness to the applicant, I think he'd like to move this forward as much as he can, as quickly as he can. That said, I'm not sure I can turn around something to the board by Tuesday in terms of a comparison. And it would be due on Tuesday under the new guidelines for the 6th. So I think it would have to be the 20th.
Okay.
And so then I'll make a motion to continue to May 20th.
Second.
All right. So the motion to continue this hearing to May 20th was made by Bob and seconded by Ed. We'll do a roll call vote. James?
James Morside.
Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
And TJ Hurry, aye. So the motion passes unanimously. Attorney Clower, thank you. And we will see you back here May 20th.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. You too. Okay, so that wraps up our public hearings. On to our open meeting items. First, we have voting the minutes of March 25th, 2021.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of March 25th, 2021.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ken, thank you. Roll call vote. James?
James Morside.
Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
Ken?
Foreman.
Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
I think I might have been frozen for a second. Ed, I'm sorry if you could say it again, please.
Yeah, Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
And TJ Hurry, aye. So voting the minutes for March 25th pass unanimously. Item number 2, we have request for insubstantial change, McDonald's, 21 Pine Street, Unit 4A in North Falmouth. Comprehensive permit 39-07, request to modify second floor loft area. So included in our packets, we did have an email from the McDonald's dated April 7th. And we have some material in there regarding their rationale for the modification. So everyone had a chance to review it?
Yes.
All right. Any questions for Noreen about the request? Oh, Mary, are you?
Yeah, I do have a question, and that is, would this require approval of the condo board before it came to us? I don't think we know what the condo rules are for this particular Pine Street development. And it would seem to me that it first has to go before the condo board for approval before it would come to us, but I leave that to others.
So I guess, that's an interesting point that I had not considered. I guess what I would say to you is they have an existing loft area. They're looking to expand that to an area where there's a cathedral ceiling. So there will be no exterior change. They will not be adding a room. They are extending an existing room. And I guess the other thing I would say to you is, if they do need approval from their condo board, that would certainly be separate from the zoning board's role as far as determining whether you're finding it an insubstantial change or a substantial change. Under the 40B regulations, this, I would advocate to you, falls under an insubstantial change. But so what would be your task for this evening would be that if you determine it's substantial, it would then have to go before a notice meeting. But you would need to find that what's proposed constitutes a substantial change.
I'm still questioning the process. And the reason I would do that is the condo association usually has certain rules that it goes by regarding these things. I don't know in this case, haven't looked at the condo documents, and I understand that's out of our purview, but I don't know why we would want to approve something without knowing that they had first gone to the association and they had approved it.
So I know it's pretty atypical to allow any sort of live comment on this, but I do see in the chat that Anja is indicating that it is condo association approved. Yeah. And they have it in writing.
So Noreen, if we call this an insubstantial change, can we just notate that just Mary's comment about they would need condominium approval?
Well, I think if we have indication from the homeowner that they have that, what you could do is ask them to please submit that to the record. And, that would be reflected as part of your vote for this evening.
All right. So if we were to vote to find that it is an insubstantial change, we'll just condition that upon receipt of those condo association docs.
The approval?
Yeah. So you would just be asking for proof of the approval.
Sounds good. Mary, I think you brought up a great point. It's not every day that we get this sort of request for an insubstantial change, especially regarding a individually owned unit of a 40B. So it's a bit peculiar, but I think we can vote on it. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Before we do that, may I ask a question?
Sorry, Scott, go right ahead.
In the narrative here, it says that they're removing a half wall. Is that half wall characterized the same thing as a knee wall, Noreen? Is that what they're talking about?
So it's my understanding that the half wall is essentially the barrier or the protection from the loft to the rest of the space. So while the space is open, that wall would, I don't know what you call it in construction terms, but it would be so that somebody couldn't obviously walk to the end of the floor and then fall off to the space below, right?
The knee wall.
Yeah, so.
So they're just extending the knee wall out
Correct.
to
Well,
give them more floor space in the loft.
Correct.
But when they're done, it won't be a loft, right? It'll be completely closed off on this as a second floor.
Correct. So they're in essence creating a room instead of a loft.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, so there's no engineering aspects to that load or any of that where they tie into the overhang? I mean, to the eave?
So I would leave that detail to the building department.
I assume that they can do it in terms of building, or they wouldn't be proposing it, right? But
because that never happens.
I think that's making assumptions, frankly. That's why I asked about the condo association and whether it had been provided with approval, because, you might say nothing happens to the outside, but we know what happens, and we're making assumptions that we don't know about given what we've been provided with.
My question is, are they making another bedroom out of this?
Yeah, that was my question. Are they adding privacy and creating another room? Was there a reason it was left open?
Well, I think there was.
I think we need more information.
And is this just, it's just for this one unit? Are all the units are built in this thing?
Yes, so they are all completed.
So if they have to amend the condo documents, does that set a precedent with the rest of them?
No, it does not.
Well, it depends on what they're creating. And it depends on if the condo docs are based on livable square footage versus something else. If they are, then that also regulates their fees, et cetera. But I think Mary's right. I think we need more information.
Yeah. You suppose it might be better to put this on another agenda so we can get more information from the.
Well, Mr. Chairman, certainly if there's corroborating evidence from the condo association that they're all right with that, we should have a copy of that, number one.
Sure.
Number two, I think it should be a little more specific exactly what they're creating rather than just a vague narrative. And I'm not being facetious. It's just, if we can't read this and understand it, how can we approve it without fully understanding exactly what they're talking about? And what,
Understood, Scott.
so that's where I am with it anyway.
Good. Yeah, so if we can get a little more information, I'd rather push it off to another meeting date. That way we can vote whether it's substantial or insubstantial and go on from there.
So you looking for a motion?
Noreen, would we need a motion in order to move this to another agenda date?
I think that would make sense. And I would guess that we could probably wrap this up pretty quickly on the 6th.
All right.
I'll make that motion described by the chair for the 6th.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Scott, with the motion. Seconded by Ed. We'll do a roll call vote. James?
James Morse, aye.
Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Bob?
Robert Dugan, aye.
Ed?
Van Kuren, aye.
Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
And TJ Hurry, aye. So the motion passes unanimously, and we will add that to the open meeting agenda for the 6th. All right, up next we have reviewing the draft decision for application 7-21 Sullivan, 345 Grand Ave in Falmouth. Vote anticipated. Voting members were myself, Ken Foreman, Bob Dugan, Ed Van Kuren, and Scott Zelinski. Looking at the
So-
time, it's 9:32. Would anyone like to make a motion to extend the board's business for the night?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to extend to 9:45. I think we can do it.
I'll second it.
Optimist.
Yeah, all right. So motion to extend to 9:45 made by Bob, and I'll give this second to Ed. Roll call vote. James?
James Forsyth.
Thank you, James. Mary?
Mary Berry, aye.
Thank you, Mary. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Bob?
All right, so regarding the draft, Robert,
Oh, we're still voting to extend.
I'm going to get us out by
Yeah.
9:45.
I'm going to hold you to it now. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
And TJ Hurry, aye. All right, so the board's business is extended to 9:45. Bob?
So we have two draft decisions. Everyone has a copy of the decision. So I'm going to just read the condition section because that's whatever the public would want to know. So the first one is the draft decision for Sullivan, 345 Grand Ave, 007-21. Here are the conditions. 1, construction shall be substantially as shown on the revised plans. Existing conditions, plan sheet 1 of 3, plot plan proposed house, sheet 2 of 3, septic systems details, sheet 3 of 3, dated December 23, 2020, with final revision date of March 29, 2021, prepared for Lawrence and Valerie Sullivan, 345 Grand Ave, Falmouth, drawn by Falmouth Engineering, Inc., 17 Academy Lane, Suite 200, Falmouth, Mass. Plans are stamped and signed by Michael J. Borzelli, P.E., and Gary S. LeBray, PLS. In cover sheet A0.0, abbreviations and symbol legend, sheet A0.1, existing floor plan, sheet A0.2, basement and first floor plan, sheet A1.1, second and third floor plan, sheet A1.2, roof plan, sheet A1.3, exterior elevation, sheet A2.0, exterior elevations, sheet A2.1, section, sheet A3.0, 3D views, sheet A9.0. Plans are dated November 9th, 2020, prepared for Sullivan Residence, 345 Grand Ave, Falmouth, drawn by Longfellow Design Build, 367 Main Street, Falmouth, Mass. Plans are not stamped or signed. 2, the dwelling shall be limited to a maximum of 5 total bedrooms and remain in compliance with the Board of Health. 3, the applicant shall comply with any requirements of the Historical Commission. 4, the applicant shall comply with the Water Department requirements regarding service. Water Department sign-off is required for a building permit. 5, any changes to utilities shall require permission or permitting from the applicable department. 6, hours of construction are limited to 7 a.m. through 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. through 4 p.m. on Saturdays. There shall be no construction on Sundays or holidays, absent an emergency. 7, construction vehicles and materials shall be maintained on premises to the extent possible and shall not block any access. 8, the applicant shall apply to the select board for a license to maintain or replace the existing wall, which is partially located within the town's right-of-way prior to the issuance of a building permit, with a copy of the zoning board of appeals. Absent a license, any portion of a wall within the town's right-of-way shall be removed. In compliance with any permitting requirements of town engineering, any work on or approximate to a wall shall require A, any changes be shown on the site plan, B, protection to the town sidewalk during construction, C, provision of methodology for construction, including any temporary closure of the sidewalk, D, erosion and sediment controls during construction, E, any necessary restoration of areas between the new wall and sidewalk as necessary. 9, the applicant shall obtain an approved street opening permit from engineering and post any required bond prior to the start of construction. The work shall be completed as permitted. 10, the applicant shall install dry wells as shown on the approved plan. All roof runoff shall be directed to the dry wells. With installation and connection approved by the town, there shall be no stormwater directed off the premises. 11, construction shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions per the town's engineering webpage. The Zoning Board of Appeals replacing the Department of Public Works Engineering Division as the permitting authority for the project. Erosion control shall follow the recommendations of the engineering email dated April 1st, 2021, including A, showing how the limit of work will be demarcated, and B, including erosion and sediment controls along Fairmount Avenue and 341 Grand Avenue property. Sign off by engineering is required prior to the issuance of a building permit and prior to the certificate of occupancy. 12, the applicant shall comply with the Conservation Commission orders of conditions 2/24/2021. 13, the applicant shall provide an as-built plan to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Any changes from the approved plan should be highlighted to show the deviation from the approved plan. 14, the applicant shall comply with section 99(1), affixing a proper addressing in compliance with the town emergency requirements prior to final sign up for the building department. The address of each unit shall be posted as assigned by engineering in their February 12, 2021 referral. 15, under section 17 of chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, the requirement to record permit decisions with the registry is suspended for so long as the registry closed or subject to rules and procedures restricting public in-person access. However, such recording will be still required upon the full reopening of the registry with copy provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Barnstable County Registry of Deeds continues to accept filings by postal mail during this period, and permit holders are requested to file for recording through this method to the extent possible. Any deviation, no matter how minor, from plans submitted and approved by this board shall be submitted to the board for approval prior to any implementation of said change. The zoning administrator may make a determination as to whether the changes are minor in nature and can be approved administratively, or whether they will require a hearing for an amendment. Changes made prior to an approval may be subject to a full hearing and are at risk that the Zoning Board of Appeals may deny the request. 17, the special permit shall lapse 3 years from the date on which the decision is filed in the town clerk's office if a substantial use of the special permit is not sooner commenced, except for good cause shown as determined by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Very impressive, Bob.
Not bad.
A plus.
All right.
Second.
Is there a motion to approve? Or
What's the motion?
oh, I'm sorry, but Ken. All
I'm
right.
seconding it.
Okay, so Bob made it. Ken seconded it. Roll call vote. Let's see. Ken,
Ken Forman, aye.
Bob,
Robert Dugan, aye.
Ed,
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Scott,
Scott Zelinski, aye.
and TJ Hurry, aye. So that's it. Passes unanimously. All
Okay,
right.
so the second condition is case number 01021, and this is Compton Properties LLC, 25 Depot Ave, Falmouth, Mass. Here are the conditions, and as previously reported, we were not allowed to put a condition in that limited this to a rental property. So the current conditions are: 1, the construction shall be substantially as shown on the revised plans. Site and septic design sheet 1 of 1 dated March 12, 2021, prepared for Compton Properties LLC, drawn by Cape and Islands Engineering, 800 Falmouth Road, Suite 301C, Mashpee, Mass. Plan is stamped and signed by Mark D. Dib, P.E. Site layout sheet S2.1, existing conditions sheet S2.3, proposed floor plan layout sheet S2.3, proposed second floor layout plan sheet S2.5, elevations north/west sheet S2.6, elevations south/east, elevations sheet S2.9, renderings S2.8, prepared for Doug and Mary Loire Snowman, 21 Mallard Way, Falmouth, Mass, drawn by Jaka Design, build P.O. Box 571, Marion, Mass, dated January 5th, 2020. Plans are not stamped or signed. Existing and proposal layout sheet S2.2 was updated to remove a bedroom from the proposed second floor. However, the plan date was not revised. The ZBA date stamp this plan is April 1st, 2021, and final plan is handwritten on the plan. 2, the entire structure shall be limited to a maximum of 4 total bedrooms. 3, the applicant shall comply with any requirements of the Historical Commission. 4, the applicant shall comply with the Water Department requirements regarding water service. Water Department sign-up is required for a building permit. 5, any change to utilities shall require permission or permitting from the applicable department. 6, hours of construction are limited to 7 a.m. through 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. through 4 p.m. Saturdays. There shall be no construction on Sundays or holidays absent an emergency. 7, construction vehicles and materials shall be maintained on the premises and shall not block any access. 8, the applicant shall comply with section 99(1), affixing a proper addressing in compliance with town emergency requirements prior to final sign up by the building department. The address of each unit shall be posted as assigned by the engineering in their February 12, 2021 referral. 9, under section 17 of chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, the requirement to record permit decisions with the registry is suspended for so as long as the registry is closed or subject to rules and procedures restricting public in-person access. However, such recordings will still be required upon the full reopening of the registry, with a copy provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Barnstable County Registry of Deeds continues to accept filings by postal mail during this period, and permit holders are requested to file for recording through this method to the extent possible. 10, any deviation, no matter how minor, from plans submitted and approved by this board shall be submitted to the board for approval prior to the implementation of said change. The zoning administrator may make a determination as to whether changes are minor in nature and can be approved administratively, or whether they will require a hearing for an amendment. Changes made prior to an approval may be subject to a full hearing and are at risk that the Zoning Board of Appeals may deny the request. 11, this special permit shall lapse 3 years from the date on which this decision is filed in the town clerk's office if a substantial use of the special permit has not sooner commenced, except for good cause shown as determined by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Nicely done, Bob.
Yeah, and I'm, just so you know, on that one, I'm the dissenting vote, so someone else will have to make the motion.
What a salesman.
All right. So would anyone like to make the motion to approve then?
I will make
I'll
that
make a motion to approve.
All
Second.
right. All right, so the motion to approve goes to Ken, second by Ed. Roll call vote, just making sure I get this right. Ken?
Ken Forman, aye.
Thank you, Ken. Bob?
Robert Dugan, nay.
All right. Ed?
Ed Van Kuren, aye.
Thank you, Ed. Scott?
Scott Zelinski, aye.
Thank you, Scott. And TJ Hurry, aye. So the motion to approve passes 4-1. All right, board discussion. Is there anything? Nothing? All right. Board update. Ashley DeMello, we got a nice email from Noreen, and Ashley was recently recognized for her 5 years of service at the town of Falmouth. So I just thought that'd be appropriate to recognize her tonight. Thank you, Ashley, for everything you do. She's on the front lines there as soon as you walk into the ZBA office, and thank you just isn't enough. And I know she put in a very long day at work today, and she wants to go home, and we're coming up at the 9:45 mark. So thank you, Ashley, for everything you do. Anything else for board updates?
Do we know when we're coming back into lifetime hearings? Any word?
I have not heard a peep.
Yes, we never.
Well, if the local trial system can hold court in the Cape Codder Resort, perhaps we could figure something out. Right, James? All right. Anything else for board updates?
Cape Cod Resort sounds good.
Doesn't it? Yeah, they got the Hearth and Kettle and the wave pool there and everything. So I'm sure.
And swimming pool.
I'm sure trials will be awesome.
Oh, I can't imagine that you get to use the pool facility, but
One can only wish.
interesting court time.
Certainly would be.
I'm hoping for jury duty and be sequestered.
There you go, James. That's the spirit. Get in one of those suites there. Anything else for future agenda items? Justin says stay away from the community pools. That's something you always need to worry about, I suppose. All right.
You have ocean here in Falmouth, so that you get to enjoy it.
That's right. All right. So that wraps everything up. Our next meeting is here in Zoom Town Hall, May 6th. See everyone then.
See ya.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.